everyone. I am Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker and the host of this Halt and Catch Fire rewatch podcast. Now, when I speak, my topic is something that I call Take the Doughnut, which for me is another way to say carpe diem. Go after the things that you want in life. Something I wanted to do this year is rewatch the show Halt and Catch Fire, and this time talk about it with other people, with you specifically. And so here we are. We're going to talk about season 4, episode 6. But before we do that, let me just let you know, if you haven't already seen it, I've got a really exciting interview for you from last week, and that is with Anders Trentemøller, who was the theme music composer for this show. Look, I know that there are a lot of people out there who love the opening titles of Halt and Catch Fire. The graphics are great, yes. So many people love the music. Anders did that. And I think you're going to be blown away by his story about how it came about. Because I was. What a talent. And he was so gracious, and it was so fun to be able to talk with him. And not only that, if you're an Anders Trentemøller fan, he just came out with a new album and he's going on tour. So what a great time this will be for you. You've got months of joy ahead of you. So be sure to check out that interview. But today we are going to talk about season 4, episode 6, which is called A Connection is Made. It originally aired September 23rd, 2017. It was directed by Michael Morris and written by Julia Cho. Here's the description. Donna seeks to hire a new programmer for Rover, but runs into trouble after Diane discovers the truth about the algorithm. Gordon has an argument with Haley concerning her grades, banning her from Comet until she can resolve it. Okay, I mean, we're done. No, it's fine. That is the episode description. Let's get into the scene by scene breakdown of it all. We're going to start just a lot of really creative camera choices in this episode. We're going to start looking at a patch of land. We're looking at somebody's property, but there's like a little bit of a hill in the way. So the camera's looking at it straight on, and then the camera raises a bit and gives us a chance to see the airstream. Okay, so it's Cam's property. We hear the sound of somebody stirring something in a cup, and then we see Cam asleep. So we're on Cam's property, somebody stirring something in a cup, but it isn't Cam. She wakes up when she hears this, and she hears the opening of the microwave. And then we see that Joe is there. Joe in this pair of white linen pants and this shirt that I love. It's like this, I guess it's a black long sleeve shirt with like white speckles. I don't know what you call this shirt. I love it. Joe looks so good in it. Lee Pace. I don't know. Normally I don't have this kind of reaction, but like, my goodness. He wears this shirt very well. It's just wow. Okay. Anyway, getting focused again. So Joe's there. He's making something, but it woke her up. She says hi. It's probably kind of early in the morning. She sounds pretty tired. He's like, good morning. He's smiling. He's been thinking. He has been up. He has been brainstorming taglines for Comet. He says, I got it. Catch the comet. She sits up. She's like, oh, no. She laughs. He's like, why not? She says, because it sounds like the flu or the clap. There. Joe is pouring coffee. He's like, how about let's Comet? She says, how about let's not? He brings her the coffee. And by the way, note that is the difference between one possible relationship and one not going to happen relationship in this episode. He brings her coffee. He leans down. He's like, it's like Q-tip or Kleenex or Band-Aid. We could be the first internet brand. He's kissing her neck. Pause for a second. The Let's Comet one doesn't sound like a good tagline until you realize that we've made like so many brands of verb now. Like Google it, like Facebook it, like there's so many different things, like Xerox it. We've done this with so many brands. So like Let's Comet actually is appropriate in that grand scheme of things, it's not necessarily a marketing tagline, but it's an option. I like that he's got somebody to bounce these ideas off of, because sometimes you just need another marketing mind in the room. So she says, yes, I would love to be your focus group just after 10 a.m., which apparently it is not. She is not an early riser, and he has been. This feels like it's not the first day that he's been doing this brainstorming. Maybe it started the day before. Like she hears him going through these things, and she's not at all surprised. Joe smiles a little. He says, but Rover's vulnerable. One manager down. He goes to kiss her again. She stops him. She's like, it actually comes off as a worse joke when you're not caught up yet on the plot, because we're going to find out later that Boz actually stepped down. But we know that Boz just went to the hospital. We don't even actually know if he's okay right now. We were told it looked like he was going to be okay, but we haven't actually seen Boz. So to have Joe say Rover is one manager down, it's like, what happened to Boz? And Cam's like, not a good joke. She's off put by that. So it alarms us as the audience, unless we have enough patience to just like kind of hold it out a little bit, just until we get some explanation. So Cam's like, Joe, come on, that's a little evil. Joe, he kisses her again. He says, it's a joke, relax. She just doesn't want to be kissed this early in the morning. He keeps going in for it. She's like, it's before 10. So he sort of pulls away. She says, okay, I want us to visit him soon, okay? Joe says, Cam says, he knows I told you, and he feels bad. I think he wants to apologize. We hear the microwave beep. Joe goes to it. We don't actually see Cam visit Boz in this episode. We will see Joe visit Boz, but she doesn't make good on this. She has other things that come up for her. She's got a lot of people to visit in this episode, but Boz is not going to be one of them. So it's interesting that they keep this in the show, keep this particular line. Joe gets his mug from the microwave. He says, there's no need. We still have a better approach. And as it turns out, the genius behind their new search algorithm is unavailable to them, being Cam. Joe's going to sit in the kitchen. The kitchen seat, the little bench that equals the kitchen table is very small. He sits there. He dips a spoon into the mug to eat something. Cam blanks. She's like, cheese egg? Like, he just made cheese egg on his own? Joe likes cheese egg? Joe nods. She's very impressed. This is one way she's rubbed off on him right here. She's like, wow. He gestures with emphasis from the spoon. He's like, search it, find it, comment. Cam nods in a very that'll do kind of way. She says, it's perfect. He nods, very proud of himself. He writes it down. So, we get some good information here. But it's ambiguous around Boz. And then, Cam is still very much not going to be supporting them with the algorithm anymore. And of course, because Donna at this point now knows that Cam was the one who was helping, Boz was the conduit to that. And he's not there anymore for some reason. So, Joe's feeling like, all right, they were competition, but are they anymore? Because they don't have the know-how to get this done in a way that's really going to compete with us anymore. So he is feeling renewed energy around what they're working on with Comet. Now we're going to go see the AGEC space, the event space. It's empty. Seeing this first is a reminder to us of where we left off, where we saw Donna overhearing the conversation that Boz and Cecil were having with Elias, where they had a very shared story. It reminds us of Donna chasing Cecil down right after that and being like, who really wrote this algorithm? And then Cecil unfortunately repeating the same story again, because that is that's the script that he and Boz had created. And even if you have to say it a bunch of times in a row, that's the way to go with it. So we're kind of getting memories of all of that first by seeing that space first. But then we're going to get a couple other empty spaces at that office. So, we're going to hear Donna's voice. She's going to say, thanks for coming in. So now we go from the event space to an empty bullpen at AGEC. She says, I thought it was important that we speak face to face. We still aren't seeing her, but we see the camera going down an empty hallway. She says, speak face to face and in private. Now we're going to see Donna and Cecil in the conference room that we've seen Donna in quite a number of times. She is at the head of the table sitting near us, near the camera. Cecil is at the other end of the room in a chair. It's not at the head of the table. As we have seen, most people that are presenting to her sit all the way across from her like that. Cecil says, I wrote 90% of the code Rover's built on. Donna says, yes, back when it was a medical indexing company, but Rover's evolved and you haven't evolved with it. Cecil says, I've done everything you've asked me to do. Why am I the one that has to go? Donna says, Boz has already stepped away. Okay. And frankly, your deal is much more. Cecil slams the table and we see the camera angle from over Donna's shoulder. So when he slams the table, we see her kind of jump a little bit. He says, I made this company with my friends. He stands up, he walks over to her and he stands over her to be as intimidating as possible. He's so angry. He's like, I made this company with my friends. Do you think I give a shit about an exit package? We were fine until you came in and started demanding the impossible. Donna closes her eyes. She calmly says, if I've been hard on you, I'm sorry. She sort of sucks in a breath. She says, but this isn't about what's fair. This is about survival. She gets this compassionate look on her face. And it's so interesting because we're used to seeing ruthless Donna in this space. We're used to seeing Donna who's flipped her watch over in this space. So when Donna gets all this compassion on her face, it's really hard to tell if she's genuinely feeling for Cecil. Like she's been here, she knows, or is this just like part of her fake, like this is my face, but this is how I'm feeling? Like, is this part of her robot? This is a tactic I'm going to use to calm Cecil down and get him out of here. It can be a little hard to know that because we're so used to seeing that second Donna in this space. But she spends most of the rest of this scene with a look of like, I relate, I feel compassion here on her face. And Cecil buys it as that. I don't 100% know if I do, especially when we're going to see later Diane has a simple solution that isn't this. It's like, is Donna just like, even though all she actually has to do is get Cam to sign like a here, take my IP agreement, and you could actually maybe keep everybody on the team, Donna's rather fire people and make them think that's her only choice. So is this part of a manipulation for her to make everybody think that the only way forward is like to fire Cecil? So I don't know. It's kind of interesting, like how real is Donna being here, even though she's got this real demeanor right now. So Donna closes her eyes. I'm sorry if I've been hard on you. This is about survival. I don't think you care about the money, but I do think you care about your friends. His face softens. He looks away. He's still standing over her at this point. But when she says something about his friends, like this is about them. This is about making sure they're okay. His face softens. He backs up. He sits down close to her, but now he's sort of at her level. And, her voice is soft, so it sort of softens him. She says, the fact is, by passing someone else's work off as your own, you're putting them in a precarious position. The only way to protect them is to take the search algorithm apart. He softly breathes in. He's not looking at her. She's like, and build Rover's own proprietary version of it. And for that to work, you can't be involved. He looks at her hurting, like he's been persuaded that this is in fact the only option. She gives him a very honest seeming gaze. She says, I do know what it's like to feel like a failure. That hits him hard. That was the right combination of words to affect Cecil for some reason. She says, like, to feel like you don't measure up. But if you don't step aside and let me bring in someone else, you and your friends could end up with nothing. Just very softly with all of this. He nods and he gives up. He says, so what do I tell them? She says, the truth. I'm burned out. I've been struggling for a while now. His face is just crestfallen. It's like the velvet gloves to give him the gun to shoot himself with it. I mean, it's not like it's just so, especially this whole scene takes a totally different context by the end of the episode when you realize there is another completely valid and natural option on the table to solve all this that is not firing Cecil. She's really prodding him and persuading him to think that this is the only option so that he'll fall on his own sword anonymously, not even tell his friends what happened, and leave. I feel like at some point they're going to have to find out, because if Donna's plan comes to fruition, Cecil leaves. Cecil hasn't even told them why for real. And she brings somebody else in to recreate the code that he just did. Their natural question would be, why? Like, we have this code. So if she really played this out, there'd be some questions for her later. But for now, she's, finding a way to get him to leave. That's the first step. So she says the truth, tell them the truth. I'm burned out. I've been struggling for a while. Rover's in a good place. I feel it's time for me to move on. Try it. Now you try. Cecil kind of grumbles through it. I'm burned out. It's been hard for a while now, and I think it's time to move on. She's going to stand, walk around him to get the phone. He's still kind of looking in the direction that she used to be sitting. She grabs the phone. She picks it up. She puts it right in front of him. He turns and he looks at the phone like, oh my God, where this thing is happening now? And he says, now? She says, take all the time you need. She leaves the room. He makes a motion to start dialing. She stands outside the window watching him. And again, she has a sort of compassionate look on her face. But is it really? I mean, because at the end of the day, I think she's very well aware that she could just get Cam to sign the thing. And Diane brings that up later, but I think that's something Donna already knew existed. She's just trying to avoid that by any means necessary. So this is all actually manipulation in some way. But I think, when she looks at what's happening with Cecil right now, especially when she says, I know what it's like to feel like a failure, what is she thinking about here? Because I don't know. I don't think it's the symphonic. I think this might be bringing up memories of what happened with Hunt. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's something else. What comes to mind for you? Because when I think back to the situation with Hunt, she basically was inadvertently committing corporate espionage by bringing him information about what they were working on with the giant. And then Hunt was a bad actor in the situation and actually used all of that information to create a competitor machine and try to launch it before they did. So, she's been in a situation not exactly like this, but, sharing company information or receiving information from an outside influence to help the company might be bringing her back to that particular situation. So we're going to go to the Comet office. We're going to see what's happening there. We're going to look at Haley working in the bullpen. We're going to see Gordon standing in front of his closed office door and calling to her. And again, this is another image that we're going to call back to later in this same episode. All of these little moments that become echoes in this episode. So Gordon is going to shout to her, Haley, get over here. His arms are crossed. He's looking stern. He's trying to look stern on purpose. She comes over. She looks very confused. What is it, Dad? As well, we have something really important that we need to discuss. Okay. He feigns disappointment still. He says, I think you know what I'm talking about. She's alarmed. She's like, no, Gordon opens the door and he walks in backwards to let her in behind him. He goes, rockets. She's so excited. She runs to his desk where there are a bunch of rockets all stacked up next to each other. She says, no way. He smiles. He says, happy birthday, Bug. She says, let's go this afternoon. We don't often see Haley this animated and lit up about something. She apparently loves her rockets. So he's like, well, slow down. We can't go this afternoon. We still have to recategorize the site. And Haley's like, but the weather's perfect. The visibility is awesome. Where it's like, Haley, come on. Haley says, and today is my actual birthday. She's very excited. She's being very convincing. He's like, yeah, but if we go Saturday, we can invite your friends. Haley gestures to everybody in the office. She's like, I'll ask them right now. They're right here. That's not what Gordon meant. Where it says, no, your school friends, okay? Those people have to work. Besides, it's your birthday. It's not a national holiday. He's sort of chuckling his way through that. There are a couple times that Gordon says a thing in this episode that's real, like, put her in her place, Dad. You know, it's like, you're just a kid. This is like, that's one of them for me. It's not a national holiday. Well, it's fair. I mean, if she were anybody else in this office, they wouldn't be like just all taking off to go play with rockets. Haley, this is kind of an interesting thing to me, given the speculation we've had over the last episode. Haley says, okay, well, what about inviting Katie? And she kind of knows that's going to get him to say yes. I double checked. I went back to that scene where Joe was like, you're screwing the chief ontologist. And he shouted it really loud at Gordon so that people in the office could hear it, including Katie and Haley, who were right by the air hockey table. And then I went back and I looked again because somebody had mentioned that Haley stormed off. She did lean down to put her, I don't know if she shot the puck one last time or just put her stuff down. And then she did storm off right after Joe said that. So it was really awkward. It was really, really awkward for Katie probably at that moment. Like, oh my God. Then when I put that back into context with the fact that later in the episode, when Joni and Katie are listening to the PJ Harvey song through their Walkman together, and Haley feels very awkward and is sitting back, for Haley to say to Gordon, what about inviting Katie? Has she just gotten over it? Has she just thought about it, got comfortable with it in her own head, and now she's saying invite Katie? Because we didn't see anything we didn't see anything in between her storming off, being awkward with Katie, and being like, no, I want her to be one of the people invited to my party. One of the few. So it's a little, I don't know. Granted, she is manipulating Gordon here a little bit, where it's like, okay, we don't need to get everybody from the office. Just bring Katie. You love her, right? You want her to have this rockets experience today. You want to have this experience with her today. That does give Gordon some pause. He's sort of looking out the window towards Katie. He says, really? She's like, yeah, come on, let's do it. Just us. Gordon looks out again towards Katie. He's like, let me see if I can reach Cam. He holds up a finger but this isn't definite. This is not for sure. I'm just going to see if I can reach Cam. He says, I'll check to see if she can move up the day. Haley takes it as definite and she comes over. She hugs him. She's smiling. She's like, you're the best. It's happening now. Okay. Gordon gets on the phone to make the call. He's like, it's not 100%. She's like, yeah. Okay, so now we're going to go to AGEC. We're going to go to that incubator conference room where Elliot, Vera, and Tanya are sitting at one end of the conference table. We can't see it yet, but Donna is standing at the other end. Elliot says, this is just so unlike Cecil. Donna, I mean, it really is. Like, for this not to have been something that Cecil was talking out with them beforehand, that he just gives them a call and doesn't show up, it's weird. Like, nothing about the way Donna is executing this is savvy enough to withstand the long term. You know, like, this is gonna get strange at some point. Anyway, Donna is at the other end of the table. She's like, look, shakeups like this happen. As far as I'm concerned, it's no reflection on you or the long-term viability of Rover. This is maybe the most reassuring she's been with the team at any point. It's very like love bombing, grooming kind of stuff here that she's doing. Tanya says, but this will raise eyebrows, won't it? I mean, for a co-founder to leave when the company's doing so well. Donna says, trust me, the only thing anyone cares about is how much traffic we're getting. And in that respect, Tanya's right. We're doing really well. Elliot and Vera exchange a glance. They're trying to sort of read each other's thoughts without speaking. Donna says, and with the Series A, we have the opportunity to attract some formidable talent. I want you guys to focus on optimizing the site, and I'll take the lead on hiring and make sure we land the best CTO in the Valley. Pause, rewind. Tanya saying, isn't it going to raise eyebrows for a co-founder to leave when we're doing so well? Let's go back to season 3, almost one season ago exactly in the episode count. You know, Cam's gone. Mutiny seems to be going okay. Mutiny is going for the IPO. Donna's on the road show, and she's trying to answer the question about what happened to Cam. And it's not actually that easy. And Boz is saying it doesn't pass the smell test, what you're saying about it. So I wonder if her experience is really that it doesn't matter. Because if the IPO had gone over well, if, you know, Mutiny had done this great job, had a great opening day on the stock exchange, and, you know, that was the beginning of the beginning for them, that would be one thing for her to be saying this. But no, that's not what happened. It was the beginning of the end for Mutiny. So Tanya's asking a good question. I don't know how honest and truthful this is from Donna based on her own experience. Vera says, is anyone good even available in terms of CTOs? Donna says, yeah, Bobby Aaron is. Elliot's very surprised. Bobby Aaron? Donna crosses her arms. She's glad she's kind of got Elliot now. She's sort of going to reel him in. She's like, Elliot's like, are you kidding? That guy's a legend. Tanya's very skeptical. She says, Microsoft's making a huge play for him. I really don't think. Donna stops her. She's like, listen to me. She sits down near them. She's going to put herself at their level. She walks closer to them. Once again, it's like sort of mirroring what Cecil did earlier, but without any of the anger that came with it. She says, we're the big ones. Any CTO would be lucky to be with us. That's how we operate from now on. Got it? She looks at them all, daring them to agree. Elliot and Vera look at each other. They're kind of impressed, actually. They're nodding to each other. Tanya nods, but more reluctantly so. Look, she got Elliot with the Bobby Aaron of it all. She got Vera just by being supportive with them when she was like, no, this isn't a reflection on all of you. You're doing great. Vera's been waiting to hear this for episodes now. Tanya doesn't really, it's like, oh, I don't know about this. Tanya says, all right. Vera says, yep. Elliot says, got it. He sighs a bit. They're going to move forward this way without Cecil. But I don't know. Like, I feel like if you're Vera or Elliot here, you're going to pick up the phone again and ask some harder hitting questions to Cecil. But okay. So Katie and Haley, we're going to get them. They're sitting together in a field. They're working on their rockets. They are decorating them in some way. The camera pulls back and we see that Gordon is watching them. probably wondering how things are going between Haley and Katie after all the weirdness. Gordon is sitting with Cam at a table, picnic table, and they're working on their rockets. They're decorating, writing on their rockets. I think they were already decorated, but now they've got like they're taking like Sharpies to them and they're adding words and some additional finishing touches. Cam says, "Okay, how's it look? We see her rocket. It has El Gordo written on it." She wrote El Gordo, I think. Gordon says, "Nice, El Gordo." Cam laughs. She says, "Yeah, you know what that means, right?" By the way, I think our rocket was the biggest when we saw it, all of them lined up on the table. So of course, right? Gordon says, "Yeah, handsome." Cam's like, "Exactly." She keeps painting. That's not what it really means. It means the fat one. But you know, he might not know his Spanish there. Gordon is going to point to something that's on her rocket. So he points, and we see a red, yellow, and blue bird at the top of Cam's rocket. She says, Gordon says, "Haley drew it. Sailors get one tattooed for every 5,000 miles. But you know what she said. Since the rocket's 1/100th in scale, it only needs to cover 50. He's feeling very proud. Kim says, "Well, you haven't launched yours yet." So he says, "What, do you honestly think I'm not going to launch that thing 50 miles? Cam says, "Fair enough." Gordon looks back at Haley and Katie. He says, "Do you think it's weird that she didn't want to invite any of her school friends?" I guess pause here for a second. I feel embarrassed to say this, but it took until this viewing, until this deep dive and like pausing the screen to see what was right in front of me about this bird. Because when Gordon goes to Hound Dogs later and sees Vanessa, for some reason, I just missed this whole bit about the bird, and I was like, is it the Hound Dogs logo that he's thinking maybe she turned into her version of the Comet? Like, because the Comet logo that we know now, Joe had updated it. Haley's was just like a bunch of I don't know. It was just like a splat. Joe, when he came in, he made it more defined. He updated her logo. So initially, I thought that when Gordon actually saw the Hound Dogs logo on Vanessa's name tag, that he thought, oh, that's where this came from. It's completely not what it was. Like, the fact that Haley drew Vanessa's tattoo on this rocket, that means that Vanessa has made a very big impression, specifically Vanessa. And this whole thing about the whole thing about like sailors get one tattooed for every 5,000 miles. You know, Vanessa probably has not gone 5,000 miles at that point in her life. But but I bet Vanessa was the one who said, since the rocket's 1/100th in scale, it only needs to cover 50. Maybe she's made a similar equation for herself, and that's something she said to Haley. Or maybe that's something they discovered together. And so now, you know, Haley's got this mark that's honoring Vanessa. So, you know, it's all going to come into focus later, but I honestly missed the whole bit about the bird, which makes none of this make any sense. So, you know, once again, I've spotted a detail here that makes a lot of things a lot clearer. Okay, so Gordon's suggesting, well, yeah, but what about her? Is it weird she doesn't have school friends that she wanted to invite for this? Kim says, no, school friends are overrated. I mean, are you going to ask Cam of all people that question? He says, Kim says, she seems really happy and Katie is great. Like, just be happy with this. Once again, you know, Cam is offering some good perspective with Gordon. You know, in the episode where she was like, your daughter wants to work with you on a project. That's awesome. You know, like, for her to say that and make Gordon reevaluate and decide, yes, I'm going to let Haley work on Comet. And then here to be like, school friends, school friends are school friends. Haley's happy right now. That's the important thing. And Katie's great. Your life is good. Let's not make a mountain out of a molehill right now, Gordon. So we're now going to go over and see Katie and Haley's conversation. They are sitting near where all the rockets are going to be set off, and they're decorating theirs or writing on theirs. Katie holds up hers. Hers was decorated as like sort of a red and white checkered rocket. She says, I feel like it's missing something. Katie looks at Haley's. Haley has drawn the NASA. She's detailing the NASA logo on hers. She says, oh, you're planning on going orbital. Haley says, definitely exosphere on this one. Katie says, you guys do this a lot? Haley says, yeah, we used to go all the time until my mom blew her hand off. Katie stops what she's doing and she looks at Haley like, oh my God. Her mouth is hanging open. And I was like, it's just how we didn't even see it coming, She lets it hang. Katie realizes that Haley's just messing with her. She's like, oh, you're hilarious. Haley laughs. We're going to go back to Gordon and Cam. Again, I mean, like, is it still weird for them? I guess not. We're not used to seeing Haley rib people like this. Haley is, I don't know. Maybe there is still a little bit of an edge to Haley with Katie, but they're able to sit down with just each other and work on the rockets. So I don't know. I'm a little unclear what Haley's feeling right now about Katie, but I guess it's okay. Just after she gets this little weirdness in there. So now we're going to go back to Gordon and Cam. And I'm not sure what this story is. So Gordon's saying, so then after I practically promised her a kidney, your neighbor makes her poor son run 10 miles. Cam rolls her eyes. She's like, 1 mile. Gordon says, just to come and knock on your door and give you a message? Cam's like, so it's not like I didn't give him a ride home afterwards. What is this story from? Is this something that's happened for Cam with her new friends near the Airstream or her neighbors near the Airstream? If so, is this what happened? So I guess one way I can explain this, and I might be overthinking this, is he telling a story of what happened when he and Boz left together from like, so, the little party she had at the Airstream? Like when else has Gordon been in that area where he'd be interacting with her neighbor? I don't know. Is that what this is striking you as? Because I'm literally coming up with that on the fly. I didn't have an answer to this before I started doing this update. So okay. That's my initial thought. If you think of something else, let me know. She's like, it's not like I didn't give him a ride home afterwards. Gordon, it's kind of a playful fight still. He's like, phones were invented in the 19th century, when America was mostly still agrarian. Cam's like, Gordon's, I mean, you could build your own. In fact, you should. He's basically like, get a phone, Cam. And she is jokingly disapproving. Did he have something else to tell Cam, but he couldn't reach her by any means at all? Is this how he got this? This is probably how, I think I'm landing on it. This is probably how he got Cam to come to this thing. The only way he could reach her to move this thing up a day might have been because they want to do it immediately. So this is how he got Cam to the rockets. All right, I worked it out. Maybe you all were there a lot faster than I was, and if so, I apologize if you had to see this happening in real time. Okay, so he's like, you should build a phone. You're a lot of trouble when you've got too much time on your hands. It's like jokingly disapproving. Except, is it joking? Cam stops. She looks at him. She's taking it kind of seriously. She says, I told you I did that to help Boz. Him saying a thing like that kind of like hit her in her most vulnerable place, her most insecure place. He says, Gordon says, he asked me for help too, but I didn't go and write an algorithm. Okay, maybe this is a little serious. Cam says, okay, well, don't worry. I'm done. I'm sick of tech, the whole thing. It's amazing how quickly this conversation is taking its turns. You know, it's like playful ribbing, maybe real ribbing, and then now we get to this. And this is like a real motivational pep talk, kind of like a friend worried about a friend moment. And it all happens within the space of a handful of lines. Cam is saying, I'm sick of tech, the whole thing. Gordon is like, what, are you washed up at 32? Come on, you got one lousy review. And do you have any idea what people said about the symphonic? She rolls her eyes a little bit, but she does need the support. He's like, come on, I know you dream in code. He's not, but he's like, come on, you're not done. Really? Like, this is this is at the core of you. You can't just let that go. Kim isn't even looking at him. She's like, not anymore. She did, but she can't make eye contact with him. He's still looking at her. It's just sad. And she's not looking at him. And then Joe calls to them. He's standing with Haley and Katie. He's like, hey guys, and Haley and Katie are beckoning them over. They're ready. Now we're going to hear Echo and the Bunnyman, the Echo and the Bunnymen's Seven Seas start to play. Great song choice for this. Wonderful needle drop. But yeah, kind of going back to that scene, it reminds us how lost Cam has been. And I think it's Gordon kind of saying, like, do you have to be this lost? Like, you have a thing that you really care about. Do that. Like, and make it so that the rest of us can contact you. So I don't know. I think it's a real I don't even want to say tough love moment. It's just a love moment. Gordon's like, what are you doing? Like, do the thing you love to do. And Cam can't make eye contact with him. All right, so we're going to get this song playing. Now we're going to see, you know, we've sort of switched. Everybody is standing near where Haley and Katie had been. Gordon is setting up a rocket. We've got Katie, Haley, and Cam. They're all at the controls. Joe is setting up a camera. He's got a view cam that we're going to see throughout this episode. He runs over to Cam with the view cam. It's not a camcorder, I don't think, but that reminds me of those devices with, I don't think this holds an entire videotape. So I'm trying to figure out what he's recording onto with this. But he's got this view cam. He brings it over to Cameron. Gordon's shouting to everybody, get your keys in, get ready, everybody. Joe is so excited. He's so breathless. He says to Cam, hey, would you film me? He's got little boy energy in a good way. Maybe the one time in this show that Joe has little boy energy in the best possible way. Maybe that's the difference between little boy face and little boy energy. She laughs. It's nice to see him like this enthused about something. So she grabs the camera from him. Gordon says to Haley, happy birthday, Bug. She is beaming. We have not seen her smile like this. And he's smiling because she's this happy. Cam gets the view cam ready to film all of them. And now we're going to see them through this camera. Gordon's like, and T-5. And they all start counting off 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. The rockets go up. It's this great moment in the song. We see the rockets in the sky. They're all watching the rockets in just absolute amazement and awe. Cam is filming the rockets, and then she brings down the camera and films her friends. Again, this is a woman who knows her stuff in terms of marketing. Yeah, she might be a tech genius, but a coding genius, programming genius, but she is also the great mind that thought of like, look at the rockets and look at your friends, get their faces. She's the great mind who thought of in 109, the Comdex episode, she's the one who created the design of their booth on the fly in her little art project to get people up to their suite. So she's got a marketing mind here. Anyway, so she's filming everybody looking at their faces in awe. The parachutes start coming out of the rockets. Joe laughs. Everybody goes running after the rockets. Haley's like, where did it go? Katie's like, where is it? I'm supposed to stop it. Like maybe catch it. So it's just this really, I don't know, it's just so light and free and airy. And, after last episode, which I feel like was this really sort of dark and dense relationship focused episode, where the relationships had a lot of struggling happening in them, a lot of conflict, a lot of loaded conversations. So to have an episode now where we've got like rockets going up in the air and people playing like they're all kids, it feels like a nice change of pace for us. Okay, we're gonna go to Donna's, her home. What this episode, we've had a bunch of episodes that didn't have a lot of music, like needle drops in them. And I think they were saving up for this episode, because there's a bunch of good songs in this episode. We had the one we just heard, and then right after that, we're going to hear Sweet Jane by Cowboy Junkies. I totally remember this song. So it's playing in the background softly through this scene. Donna is doing some work. She's on her couch. The door opens and Joni's going to come in. Joni's like, what is this music to kill yourself by? I mean, it's, yeah. Okay. You know what, Joni? It's a good song, okay? Anyway, Donna says, hey, would you mind bringing me a beer? You can have one too if you want. Don't tell your dad. So Joni is going to expertly open them, and she's going to sip hers first before bringing Donna's to her. Joni's like, so how's Boz? Donna says, good, I think. She watches Joni guzzle a beer. Donna crosses her arms. She's like, and how's your first sip of beer? Joni lies. She's like, oh, it's awful. She's going to come over to Donna with Donna's beer. Joni's like, okay, but he's good, right? They released him yesterday. Donna says, how do you know? Joni says, I saw him Friday after school. It's so sweet, right? Because Joni visited him in the hospital, but now that he's released from the hospital, she can't just go to Diane's. So she wants the latest and greatest on Boz. And I guess she probably figures Donna knows that from Diane herself. So I saw him Friday after school. Donna sips her beer. She's like, I thought visiting hours at the hospital were in the morning. Joni says, I told them I was his granddaughter. Donna shakes her head. She's smiling. She's admiring Joni. She's like, I love that about you. Joni smiles. She's beaming. Donna must be seeing what an impact it has when she gives people a nice word. Like it's been a minute since Donna did that with people. She's so used to being the ruthless version of herself. But now we're seeing, like with her team, with Joni, what if you say a nice thing to them? What if you compliment them? The way these people light up, the way Joni lit up when Donna was telling the whole story of Joni as a baby at the dinner with the Rover team, that affected Joni a lot. To see her mom really acknowledging Joni as a human, like the good parts of Joni as a human. But that story at the dinner was with Joni as a baby. And not so much about something Joni did, but about Donna's feeling about her. This is Donna complimenting Joni herself for the person she is right now and the behaviors she's making. So I don't know. I think it's nice for Donna to see the positive reinforcement from all angles, like the way she's reinforcing the people around her and the way that positively reinforces her because of their reaction. She says, I love that about you. You know that, right? You're absolutely fearless. Joni's like, it's a hospital. They're not going to arrest me. Donna says, well, I don't know where you get it. Joni's like, you never got in any trouble? Donna shakes her head no. Joni's like, do anything crazy? Donna says, I was pretty cautious. Joni says, come on. Donna smiles because she thought of something. Joni can see it. She's like, come on. She straightens up. Donna laughs a little bit. She says, well, your dad and I used to go camping all the time. Bum, bum, bum. That's loaded now, isn't it? She says, we used to go camping all the time. And we went to this one campsite. The locals always talked about this quarry they'd go to. It was a swimming hole. So your dad and I drove out there and we found it. Joni's listening. She's smiling like her parents are people. It was incredible. It was this cliff overlooking the glassiest, clearest blue water you've ever seen. And your dad wouldn't jump in. Joni laughs softly. She's sipping her beer. She's like, Donna says, he wouldn't. It was too high. So I laughed at him and he said, I bet you won't either. Joni's fascinated by this story. Donna says, before I could think twice, I ran right up to the edge and did a cartwheel right off. And the look on her face when she delivers that last bit, Joni's like, ta-da, that's the story. Like, did a cartwheel. Joni's like, holy shit, Mom. It's a miracle that I was even born. Like, what a wild and crazy person you were. Donna is going to chuckle. We get an extreme close up on her face. She says, I guess I just didn't believe that I could get really hurt. You know, it just felt free. You have that. And I don't ever want you to lose it. Don't ever stop yourself because you're scared. She sort of touches Joni. Joni's like, okay, well, next time I get in trouble, remember, it's because I'm being brave. Donna laughs a little bit. She's like, all right. Joni's going to get up. She's going to go. She says, I have to go do my homework. Donna says, all right, good night. Joni says, good night. Pause for a second here. So first of all, this is another scene we're going to see echoed later in this episode and played out very differently. So this is what, the third time I've mentioned that. So we're just going to keep seeing these little echoes of moments just from this episode alone. Some wonderful callbacks, reframed. And this is one of those moments. So, I love that. Donna's story also, this idea that they were camping, which she hated, but that she has this, even though she didn't like camping, this is the thing that gives her the story of her wild and crazy days that she can share with Joni. So at least there's that. Doing a cartwheel off of a cliff feels like a really dangerous choice. You're going to get absolutely no distance from that cliff. You will probably, how high up was this thing? There's a reason people run and jump to try to get distance from the cliff itself so they don't smash their bodies all the way down it. A cartwheel would probably lead to great pain, but I don't know. She's here to tell the tale. So I guess, it was fine. But shoot, I don't know what to tell you. Like physics does not suggest to me that this would work out. Anyway, so, and then to have this story also, like, underneath this whole story about Donna having a brave moment is Gordon having a cowardly moment. Donna was willing to do a thing that Gordon was not willing to do, which I think will come into play a little bit later in this episode, where we sort of get her nudging Gordon to do the reverse. Maybe the fact that Joni sort of called this story back up for her helps Donna really push for Gordon to be the one to tell Haley about her school troubles. But yeah, I think there is something in here about, like, especially at that point in Donna's relationship with Gordon, Donna was the one who was getting things done and Gordon was hanging back. So I don't know. There's a lot in that story and in the choice of telling this particular thing. So Joni has left to do homework. Donna gets up. She puts her work down. She walks over to the island in the kitchen. She puts down her beer. She considers for a moment. She thinks, and then she's like, "Can I still do a cartwheel?" She puts the beer down. She stands up. She's in her casual wear. She does a cartwheel. She's very proud of herself. She grabs the beer and she sips it again. And we're hearing the song, la 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 la. It's such a good song. That's the end of that song. Just check out Cowboy Junkies. It's so good. Okay, anyway. Also, I had to look this up after I saw this. but I couldn't find much information about Carrie Bechet, like Carrie Bechet's upbringing or like childhood. It was a very controlled cartwheel. You don't ask somebody to do a cartwheel in an episode right next to a kitchen island unless you know for sure they're not going to smack their shins on it and like break their bodies. She was in a relatively tight space and she did a cartwheel with so much control that made me wonder where Carrie got those skills. So I was trying to see if she was like a gymnast when she was young or maybe a dancer, but I wasn't finding that information. So I don't know, but I'm here to tell you that's not the cartwheel that somebody does when they have no training. And you wouldn't do it in that tightest space. Anyway, okay. I needed to go off on a gymnastics tangent because it's me. I have to. That is a point that I need to make here. Really good cartwheel. Anyway, so she's still got it. And so she sort of leans back. She's like, I still got it. And just sips her beer. Okay, we're going to go to a close-up of the view cam, the recording of the rocket launch. Joe is hugging Haley in the frame. It's so interesting in this episode, the way they use, it's kind of like in the episode in season 3, where we were getting Gordon's deposition and we were seeing Gordon being filmed by the depositions camera, and then Gordon in real life, and then Gordon in real life next to Gordon on the deposition camera. Like the way screens were used there. And I think that's an extension of the fact that we've so often seen people's faces reflected in screens, computer screens that they were working on. So I think that's an extension there. And here we're getting this view cam, and there's, we're getting what's really happening. We're getting what's happening in the view cam. Sometimes it's happening real time. So I think it's another fun way to extend with that, like, thematic, that just like that style that we've been seeing throughout the show. So Joe is hugging Haley in the view cam at the rocket launch. We hear Joe's voice now saying, "It's amazing, isn't it? 1 minute Haley's 4 and building a fort out of the sofa cushions," which is the first time he met them. That was the hurricane episode. And now we see him. He's in his kitchen walking toward Cam, who's washing dishes. So he's like, 1 minute she's 4 building a fort. The next minute and we're going to hear in Haley's very low voice in the background on the video saying, "I'm crashing our head." So she's still doing that. Even I never noticed that before. I like that she's still doing that here in this episode. He's like, the next minute she's telling kids in the hall jokes. Joe and Cam are smiling, but Joe in particular is smiling in a way, like, Cam is smiling because Joe's smiling. Joe's smiling because he's so proud of Haley. He's like, it's just so cool. Like, kids, childhood development. Isn't it grand? Cam says, "Oh yeah, kids are great if you can give birth to a 14-year-old. Joe's like, "I'll see you tonight." He kisses her. She says bye. Pause before we get to this next important point. They have so many times hinted, each of them, at how they feel about having kids. They both know where the other one stands, but they haven't addressed it totally head on to be like, do you ever want kids with me? And they're avoiding doing that, I think, because that would be, they know what the answer is going to be, and it's not going to be good for their relationship. So they've avoided being direct with it, but they think the other one doesn't totally know what they're feeling. And so they drop these hints. They make these passive aggressive remarks about it. And they're both very aware of what the other one feels. And they both, because they haven't outright had the conversation, they both think the other one is not aware. It is, to me, it's creating such a nasty undertone to this. Like, not nasty in how they feel about each other, but it's like, oh, like, as a viewer, you're like, oh my gosh, for Joe to be like, it's just amazing to see Haley grow up. And for Cam to be like, yeah, kids are great if you can give birth to a 14-year-old. Like, I will never give birth to anybody under 14. And that's not possible. So it's not happening. Like they just are constantly asserting their position indirectly. And it makes me so nervous for them. Like, at some point, they just need to have this conversation and be done with that. You know, like, either somebody has to change their position here, or like this is going to be a problem. But you have to at some point be willing to just come out with it. Okay, so Joe leaves. She looks at his empty desk and the computer that's sitting at his empty desk. She rolls her eyes a little bit like, oh, I guess I'm going to do it. She goes to his computer. And this makes so much more sense to me now in the context of how I've reinterpreted what the story Gordon was telling earlier. He was trying to reach her and he couldn't. So he contacted a neighbor about Cam sliding up the rocket launch a day. So that makes her think, I wonder what messages I have. So she goes to the computer, she types something in, she pulls up her email. She has unread messages going back to October 28th. I have never before done the exercise of just stopping the screen and really looking at what messages were there for her. But I did today. And so I'm going to share them with you. Okay, there's only like, there's several people represent 4 or 5 different contacts that are represented here. Cam's world is very small. She doesn't have a lot of people in it. So let's see. The first message that we see is from Tom. It says it's called package. The subject is package from Tokyo. That's from October 28th. That probably being the package that he sent her with all of the paperwork in it. Message from Alexa from November 13th. Saw you at MISC. Message from Alexa from December 1st. Great talk at MISC. A message from Atari Development from December 14th. Shelving Pilgrim. Okay. Yeah, so that would put 402. Am I right? Well, that would put episode 402 at December 14th. Am I right in that? So, okay. So that's from Atari Development. Or is that episode 403 that would put December 14th? Okay. Alexa says on January 4th, hello and happy new year. January 5th, she has 2 messages, one from Gordon, one from Gavin Green. Gordon says happy new year. Gavin says new year wishes. Gavin being from Atari. Couple messages in a row here from Tom Rendon. The first from January 13th. Hi, ... And then one from January 24th that says Tokyo apartment. One from Alexa on February 1st. She's had about enough of just putting the casual messages out there. So her subject is opportunity. Gavin Green writes on February 11th, FPS development. I don't know what that means. Tom Rendon, February 16th, apartment sale. Which is what, 3 weeks after the Tokyo apartment message. Okay. Alexa on March 1st writes hello with a question mark. Tom Rendon on March 20th writes business trip to San Francisco. A message from Alexa from Tuesday. Please respond. A message from Alexa on Thursday. Are you alive? A message from Haley on Sunday. Cameron Howe fan site. Okay. So those are the messages that she's got. I think the things that I noted here, not a whole lot of different people writing, these are the characters we know of and the things that would make sense for Cameron to receive. The people who have been trying to reach her were poking her every couple weeks and we're not getting responses, as you see from their more and more desperate subject lines. Alexa, who she didn't know at all and still doesn't because this is the first time she's seeing these messages. Alexa has messaged her except for, let's see, she had a 1 month break between a December 1st and January 4th message. Let's see, she had another 1 month break before the opportunity message. Another 1 month break before the March message. But she's been messaging her either every 2 weeks or every 1 month. Like, and Alexa, Cam doesn't know who Alexa is, except for these messages. And we have seen Alexa because we saw Alexa at MISC. So this is pretty persistent from Alexa to have like a solid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 messages over the course of, like November through early April, March. So, yep. That's what, those are my takeaways. People have been awfully patient with her. Okay. So she selects all of the Tom messages and deletes them. Then she sees Haley's. This is interesting. Just what the hell? She smiles. She clicks on the link. It's a fan site. It's called The How of It All. It says, welcome to the official Cameron Howe website dedicated to the awesome creations of gamer hero Cameron Howe. It includes shots of Space Spike 1 through 4. It includes her bio. It includes a picture of the giant. There's a section called Parallax and the Story of Mutiny. There's a picture of Cam and the Mutiny team, the one minus Bodie before he jumped in. There's a picture of Cam and business partner Donna Emerson in the Mutiny House kitchen. There's a Polaroid shot of Cam from season 1. It's interesting. It would be interesting to think about where this fan, whoever created the site, where they sourced all of this stuff. There's a section called Atari and the Enigma of Pilgrim. The first line or the second line says, what happened to Pilgrim, the game the world never saw? What was it like? If you, the writing is big enough on screen that you could pause the screen and actually make out some of what this person wrote. There's a question at the end as she scrolls down. It's just a big question mark. It says, Cameron Howe, where are you? She then clicks over to the gallery page. There's all these fan art depictions of Cam. There's one where she looks like, I don't know if this was meant to be another reference, but it reminded me of She-Ra from the 80s. I had a She-Ra. I had the She-Ra castle, a little figurine, a little castle. It's so cool. I played with it a lot. So one where Cam kind of looks like what I think is She-Ra. She's got some pictures, some drawings of Cam on the space spike. There's an actual fan comic. There's another really beautiful drawing of her. She gasps when she sees the comic and she clicks on that. She's smiling. She looks at the She-Ra-like drawing. She likes this. It's all making her think. Somebody is really appreciating her work. All of these things at this point have been conspiring to help her. Cam has been hiding out from the world. She went to great lengths and great distances to hide out from the world. And now already in this episode, we've got Gordon saying, come on, you know you love this stuff. You can't hide from it forever. Now she's got this fan site that, somebody is honoring all of the great work that Cam has done that's meant so much to them. Haley is sending that to Cam. So it's Haley nudging Cam in her way as well. She's just kind of getting pushed from a few different directions. And now we've got this Alexa person who happens to be dropping into her inbox at the same time. All right, so we're going to switch over here to Joe with the view cam. So we're going to see a view cam recording in real time through the viewfinder. Katie is in the kitchen making coffee. This is what we're getting a recording of. Joe's like, all right, just relax. Katie turns around. She looks annoyed, like, oh, you with the camera? He says, clear your mind. Katie mouths help to somebody off screen. Then the camera's going to follow that gaze, and we're going to see Gordon sitting at a table in the kitchen, and he just packs up his stuff and gets up and goes when he sees the camera on him. Joe laughs, and then he swings the camera back to Katie. Katie calls to Gordon. She's like, coward. And as joking and cute as that is, it is the exact message we also got from Donna's story to Joni earlier. Katie sighs, she grabs her coffee. She says, okay, the first thing I think of when I hear internet. she thinks. And then we're going to get a bunch of answers from people who work there. We're going to get Jay at the vending machine saying a computer. We're going to get Lorraine at her computer. She's just a profile. She's typing and she doesn't stop to look at the camera. She says a computer. We've got a whole theme that comes up here. Mackie says, and porn. Poe, who's playing air hockey, says porn. Reese is like, porn? Mackie says, lots of porn. Reggie says, I put in a request to be on the team that catalogs porn. Clem then comes in with the sound effects. It's like beep, 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 boop. He makes a sound like a modem dialing up, which wasn't what I just did, but that's what the sound was. So Joe, he's watching the video back now. He puts down the camera. He's not happy with the results of it. He didn't get the answers that he was looking for. He sighs, he starts looking around like, how can I get the answers I'm looking for? I don't know if he knows exactly what he's looking for until he hears it, or if he had something really specific in mind. I think if he had something specific in mind, he would have given them that direction. I think he just knows, he's looking back through all of these answers, this footage he got. He's like, this isn't it. Okay, we're going to check out what's up with Donna now. She is at AGEC in her office. She's going to make a call. What a cool camera angle here. The camera is set up at a distance from where Donna is sitting at her desk. And there's a table in front of her. And it's set up where it's like a very long reflective shot of the table with Donna small in the background. And we can see everything, like Donna and everything that's in front of her reflected in this long reflective table. It's pretty cool. So she's making a call. We hear Gordon's voice is Gordon Clark. She says, hey, it's me. I'm sorry, this is so last second, but can we reschedule dinner? This is how it would work if you wanted to contact somebody to reschedule something and they had a phone. Gordon says, yeah, no problem. We see him now. He says, nothing to report anyway. We see her. She's like, well, actually there is. I got a phone call from Haley's guidance counselor. She's flunking history and bio. Gordon is stunned. He's like, our Haley? Anna says, yeah, she hasn't turned in some assignments and apparently she bombed the last couple tests. Gordon's confused. He says, I don't get it. She was doing so great. Donna says, well, maybe she's trying to do too much. Gordon says, come on, Donna, she loves Comet. And I says, I know she loves it, but I think she needs a break. I'm afraid she's putting work above everything else. Gordon notes the irony of Donna saying that. He's like, I wonder where she gets that from. Donna's kind of taken aback. We see her very up close. She says, excuse me, I always put the girls before work. And we don't know that not to be true. We just know she's been really mean at work. So the camera now goes back to that setup further back in the room with the table in the foreground again. She says, and if you need me to talk to Haley because you can't handle it, then Gordon's like, oh, I'm sorry. All right. I just don't want to be the bad guy here. Donna says, and I do. Gordon says, okay, I'll talk to her. She says, thank you, Gordon. He hangs up. He looks at the El Gordo rocket by the window. He doesn't want to be he wants to have moments with Haley like that. He doesn't want to be the guy who has to deliver the news he's about to deliver to Haley. But, I think the fact that Donna just is fresh off of the retelling of this story of Gordon being a coward at the quarry makes her feel more comfortable to put this out there with Gordon. Like, look, if you can't do it, and she's really challenging him, and this time she has no reason to back down, especially that Haley is currently with Gordon. So we are going to go to Hound Dogs. We're going to see the view cam is recording like Joe bringing food to the table. So Haley's holding the view cam right now while he got the food. Joe said, I don't know what Joe says here. Does he say sup? I'm not 100% sure. Haley laughs. She's holding the view cam. Now we're seeing Joe on camera. He says, it's a nice place. It's charming. He hadn't been to Hound Dogs before. This isn't necessarily the type of place you would expect to see Joe. But Haley's taken him here. She obviously loves this place. And she said, come with me to Hound Dogs. And so they're doing that. It's a nice place. It's charming. So he's complimenting it for her. Now we're going to see this scene not through the view cam. Haley says, yeah, thanks for stopping. I was starved. She's still holding the view cam. Joe says, okay, so favorite site. He takes the camera from her. He turns it onto her. He's holding it kind of low, so we're sort of pointed up at her. She's in the view cam, but she's looking eye line to Joe. So she's not looking into the view cam. She says, oh God, I can't pick just one. That's too hard. What did everybody else say? Joe, so if we pause for a second here, Joe obviously heard everybody else's answers, wasn't hearing what he wanted. And so he looked around and he thought, I bet Haley's got some interesting things to say. And so here they are at Hound Dogs. So Haley's like, what did everybody else say for their favorite site? Joe, who is not on the view cam, we're just seeing him, straight on from the camera that's recording the show. He says, well, one person's favorite site was a purple screen. Just that, a purple screen. Haley, also not on the view cam here. She's like, Melissa, right? I take offense to that, okay? If I'm going to like a site that's just one color, it would be blue. Anyway, Joe agrees. He's like, that's the one. And he's like, she's obsessed. I am not. Maybe I am. I don't know. Anyway, it is not me that liked the purple screen. Okay. Hannah's like, she is obsessed. Joe says, and someone else recommended strawberry Pop-Tart blowtorches. Haley's like, oh yeah, Arnie found that one. We spent an entire day setting Pop-Tarts on fire. I think we destroyed like 3 toasters. Joe laughs. He says, that's impressive. But I'm not sure how any of these are going to get the average person online. Haley says, why not? They got me online. Joe says, how so? Haley says, now we're going to see this part through the view cam, because that part was just like the stuff that wasn't the gold. So now we're going to see that he's been actually recording this whole conversation, but this is the part that's going to matter for the whatever he's working on. Haley says, well, when I first looked at the internet, maybe your Post-its, or she says, remember your Post-its? That was what she thinks of as the beginning of the internet, his Post-its. She says, I thought it was pretty boring. It was nothing but databases and archives. We see Joe nod. She says, but then I found all this other stuff, like this kid, Justin, who was writing about his life. Haley's lighting up as she's talking about this. She says, and this other girl who was obsessed with I Love Lucy. Joe interviews her here. He's like, and what about that was so appealing? She says, I don't know. School was not good. I mean, no one was torturing me or anything like that, but it's just like everyone's always pretending, Pause there. It was a choice in the edit not to show us Joe's reaction. When Haley says no one was torturing me or anything like that, I wonder what happened on Joe's face, because he did have the experience of torturing him, of people torturing him at school. So especially in the context of what we're about to get in this scene, when Joe realizes how very similar he is with Haley, I think it's interesting that Joe had the experience of being a little different and having people bully him. And Haley hasn't necessarily had that. She's just been isolated. So I do kind of wish we would have had that one moment of reaction from him. But anyway, so she's, Haley is saying, and tortured me. It's just everybody's always pretending, Joe's like, Haley says, that's why the web's so great, because no one pretends. You just put it out there, who you really are. And if people respond to it, that's great. Joe smiles. She says, but if not, who cares? At least they saw you and not just some projection, Joe says, yeah. He's smiling. He is nodding. This is the gold he was looking for. This is the clip. This is the sound bite. This is the video bite, whatever, like this is whatever he is building. This is exactly what he was looking for. Vanessa's going to interrupt here. Let's pause there for a second now. It's so interesting to read Haley's thoughts on this. For her to say, on the web, no one pretends. You put out there who you really are. If people get it, great. If they don't, doesn't matter. But they're seeing you and not a projection. This was totally true when the internet started. And I think you might, if you asked people if this is still true now in 2024, I think would get some mixed responses on that. I think a lot of people now would say it's the reverse. You're always putting the best version of yourself out on social media. You get a lot of people who say that kind of thing. So I think a lot of people think that the online stuff is the projection now and the in-person stuff is the real stuff. Although I do think that there are still times when people are willing to disclose something on the internet in some way that they wouldn't come out with in real life. They might anonymously join communities and share information that they wouldn't be willing. They might do research for things. I think if you find the right communities, if you find the right subject matter, you might very well get people who are sharing real, honest takes that they wouldn't share if they were in an in-person setting. So I think it is a mix now, but if I don't know what people would say if you pulled everybody on it now. It's interesting to read Haley's fresh reaction to the internet from 1994. So, okay, Vanessa comes over. She interrupts this conversation. She says, "Hey." Haley says, "Hey." Vanessa's like, "You guys working?" Haley says, "Yeah. Hi, Vanessa. This is my boss, Joe McMillan." Joe says, "Actually, co-founder." The street cred he's bestowing on Haley at this point. Vanessa's kind of leaning on the booth that Haley is sitting on. She's like, cool. She's impressed. Haley smiles. She's so happy to see Vanessa. Once again, Haley's all lit up in this episode. Vanessa sits down next to Haley. So the way they are in the booth right now, Haley and Joe are sitting across from each other, closest to the windows. And Vanessa sits down next to Haley. Vanessa says, so she's talking directly to Haley. She says, "I'm totally addicted to Ayuma, by the way." Which is the Internet Underground Music Archive, which was started in 1993. So it's a relatively recent development. She says their indie rock section's incredible. Haley says, "I know, it's who needs Sub Pop?" Okay, so that was an indie record label founded in 1986. It was Seattle-based. I know it very well from living in Seattle. It's something that's still referenced. Bands like Nirvana, Soundgarden, those are some of the ones that came out of Sub Pop. All right, so Vanessa's sharing what she likes. Haley's like, "Yeah, who needs Sub Pop?" Vanessa says, "Did you find that Julep combination, the one with the Bratmobile song?" The Bratmobile is a Riot Girl group. Haley says, "Yes, let's talk about." Both of them say dogs. They're like, "Yeah." So apparently that was a song from the Julep compilation. I tried to find that, but I didn't. I thought I found it, and then I didn't. We're watching Joe observing all of this. He's smiling. He's giving them a moment. Haley's got a friend. He hasn't seen a friend her age. Vanessa says the Heavens to Betsy song's hella cool too. Haley is just going gaga for Vanessa. She's smiling so much. She's just beaming from, it's like an aura around her. So Haley's, so Vanessa likes Heavens to Betsy. Haley's like, "Yeah." She's looking, there's this little pause, and Haley, she looks really into Vanessa. It's very clear. And she looks awkward in this moment. She was not awkward for that whole beginning. It looks like she's at that point. She's like, have I said too much? Do I say more? Do I, like that thing that you do when you're into somebody and you're like evaluating everything you do about it? It seems like Haley's really in her head here in this moment. We then get this close up on Joe. So we see Joe clocking this. He looks from Haley to Vanessa. And then Vanessa, and also the shot before that, we got this shot from sort of like between the shoulders of Haley and Vanessa, looking at Joe, watching them. Joe knows what he's seeing. He is very clear on what's going on with Haley here. And Vanessa looks back at the register. She says, I better get back to work, but I'll see you later. I says, yeah, for sure. Vanessa leaves. Haley watches Vanessa walk away. And beyond Haley, so again, we're seeing from like over Haley's shoulder as she's watching Vanessa walk away, we see Joe behind her, still seated. And he breathes in deeply. He leans in very quietly with approval, says, she seems cool. Haley looks flustered. She's like, what were we talking about again? So Joe, very quietly and with great meaning, says, so on the internet, you think you can be who you really are. I love this scene. I love this scene so much. It melts my heart. I mean, to have heard right before this, Joe saying to Cam, like, she was just this little 4-year-old who I visited at her home, and like, you know, she sat on his Italian shoe. And now, like, to see Haley at this age and to have this thing about her that he strongly relates to, you know, he is remembering how the people in his world, how the adults in his life, how everybody failed to handle this the way he would want them to. And now Joe sees Haley, this girl, like, that he loves, that he's watched grown up, that he babysat, like, you know, he knows her so well. He cares about her. He cares about her well-being. She brought him into this world, into this hound dog's world, knowing that he would see Vanessa there. And she didn't out herself, but she did. It was enough information for him that he understands why she brought him there. And in this moment, I love, like, as Vanessa's walking away and you see Haley, like, you can just see Joe considering, like, how would I have wanted young me to be addressed by the Joe across from me in this situation? He considers it and he handles it the way he thinks this moment deserves to be handled. And in a way that nobody ever gave to him. So, like, you know, for Joe just to sort of lean in and say with approval, she seems cool. And he doesn't address with her directly what he saw. He knows that she should take the lead on that, or he thinks that she should take the lead on that, but he's going to give her affirmation. He's going to give a seal of approval. He's going to say Vanessa's cool. I don't know. These two, I love this scene of finding somebody that you relate, like, and also the whole conversation about, like, the whole thing about the internet being layered on top of this, because Haley has been completely unable to share this side of herself in real life. But, you know, on the internet, she can. And so, like, but she brought Joe into a real life world where some of this is going down for her. But she has not been able to say this directly. Joe is getting a chance to connect with her in real life right now in a way that he wouldn't have been able to if this had been over the internet. So I don't know. It's just so interesting the way all of this is layered. Oh, God, I love this scene. Okay, anyway. All right, we're going to go to Donna at the bar with a man. Bobby Aaron, it's going to be played by Chris Coy, who is in a film. So I am about to release another Take the Doughnut challenge that's going to be for the month of October. Of watching, it's going to be Eektober, 31 days of scary movies. And towards the end of October, one of the movies that I've picked that I've curated for this list of movies to watch is a movie called Christy. It's a horror movie, of course, like a survival horror film. And Chris Coy was in that. So I was looking up, like, where have I seen him before? I would not have known him from this film, but he was in the film Christy. Okay, so he's playing Bobby Aaron. Stay tuned. If you're interested in Eektober, stay tuned because I'm going to be dropping some information about that tomorrow, I think. Okay. Donna says to Bobby, with Rover, we cannot count only the number of users. We can track what they click on, how long they look at it. I mean, it's an advertiser's dream. Bobby says, so it's about selling. Donna says, no, it's about change. At Rover, you could be part of a universal decentralized platform that's already changing the world. He is watching her. She's sipping a martini because once again, Donna has a drink in her hand. She says, look, you could join Microsoft and let them tell you what the future will be, or you could join us and tell them. It's a very Joe-like pitch. He nods, he sighs. He says, I accepted the Microsoft offer this morning. Her face falls. What are we doing here at this table? He says, I only kept this meeting because, well, growing up, I was a huge fan of Mutiny, really Community. I made friends and I traded bootlegs and bought and sold computer parts. It was a lifesaver, really. She just hates this consolation prize. He says, and I guess I just wanted to thank you. And he grabs the check. What an interesting thing. Cam just saw a fan site that somebody created for her. And that was her indication that people appreciate the work that she's done. Donna didn't have a fan site created, but she's getting a meeting with Bobby Aaron, who, like, she's a big fan, but he is a big fan too. And not only of Mutiny, of Community, of the thing she started. She's the one who made Community happen to begin with. And Bobby is appreciating it. And he's saying all the things that, like, he's reflecting some of the things that Haley was feeling before. Like, he made friends, he traded bootlegs. He basically not only made friends, but this was the beginning of what would become a career for him. It's a little weird though, like, as complimentary as that is, he's like, I was such a big fan of you growing up when I was little. I mean, like, that's a hard thing to absorb if you're Donna here, but yeah. She says, that's really nice to hear, but I was really hoping that this would work out. Bobby says, can I ask you a question? He's getting his wallet. His Community was so far ahead of its time. Why haven't you tried to recreate it? She says, well, Mutiny was the most fun I ever had. We didn't know what we were doing. It was one crisis after another. He's nodding. She says, but it worked. He's watching her for all of this. She says, the failure of that was, well, what's the saying? You grow stronger at the broken places. I mean, it's like her life ended after Mutiny in some ways, like nothing that's happened since then has felt anywhere near as wholesome or good for her as Mutiny did. And if we're being honest, like, I think a little bit of that is looking back nostalgically at something that didn't always feel good, because we know that was not always an easy path for her. We know that her struggles with Cam were happening all throughout the time at Mutiny. We remember her crying in a bathtub about an empty bathtub about the things with Cam. But she looks back and those were the good old days. You grow stronger at the broken places. He's like, She says, anyway, he looks forward. He's, looking straight ahead at the bar. She says, anyway, the truth is, oh, now we're going to get to the truth. He looks back at her. She says, I'm trying to build another version of community, except this time it's the entire internet. It's everyone. And now she has his attention. She says, that's what's so exciting about Rover. It's flying without a net into the great unknown. He chuckles a little bit. And frankly, like, she's trying to create the world that Haley can feel so comfortable in. You know, whether or not they've had that direct conversation before, that's what she's doing. So Bobby chuckles at that. She says it's terrifying and it's exhilarating. She's lighting up a little bit as she's talking with this. You can tell when people are excited about things because they're lighting up in this episode. He says, well, I have been known to change my mind, though. She looks at him. He says, yeah, Microsoft's safe, but, well, what's that saying? No risk, no reward, right? I'm in. She's speechless. This did it for him. He says, if you still want me, that is, like, if anything has changed for you in the last 10 seconds, Donna's like, absolutely. He sighs. He says, I might need your shark side to help me out, though. The Beast of Redmond ain't gonna like this one bit, Microsoft. She says, they don't scare me. She's being all flirty. She sips her drink. He says, yeah, I can't imagine who would. To risk, they cheers. She says, you up for one more? She's beaming. She's so excited. But then we see the next morning, we're going to get a reflection of Donna and the morning light on the headboard of a bed. The camera tracks right and shows us the real Donna, and a dog is barking and waking her up. She sits up. She went to sleep with her makeup on. Bobby's awake. He's in casual clothes. He's walking in with a mug in his hand. This is an echo for me of the opening scene where Joe is making his cheese egg. The sound of the spoon in the mug wakes Cam up in the Airstream. We see Cam wake up and he brings her coffee. You know who doesn't bring somebody coffee? Bobby. Bobby made coffee for himself, but not for Donna. Or at least he's not bringing it to Donna. He's like, hey, she clears her throat. She's like, hello. He says, feeling okay? She says, yeah. They both look tired. They were up all night, I guess. Bobby looks down. He looks down at the mug he's holding with his coffee. He gestures with the mug. He's like, there's coffee. Like, but you get it. Like, literally get out of bed. She says, I should get going. Probably the correct assessment here, Donna. He says, yeah, we should talk about the job. Donna holds a hand up. She scrunches her face. She's like, it's fine. Bobby says, yeah, okay. He leaves. And then we're going to see the camera, like we see a further back shot. Donna is on this big bed in this big room that has like sort of nothing around it, like a lot of empty space, but there's clothes strewn all over the place. Look, this is Chris Coy is only credited for this one episode. We don't see Bobby again. So I'm thinking that it's like, yeah, we just already crossed the line. Just take the Microsoft job. Just do that. She's gonna have to find somebody else for the CTO job. All right, we're gonna hear the song Jump Right Out of the Jukebox playing. We're gonna see somebody working on, I don't know, a bunch of fishing hooks. I don't know how to explain what I'm looking at here. We pan up. It's Boz. We haven't seen Boz the entire episode. He's alive. He's fine. So good. And Joe scared us in the beginning too, when he was like, Rover's one manager down. Boz is alive. It's okay, everybody. He's right here. He's got a full beard. Diane knocks on the door. She walks in. She's like, John? She gives him a handmade get well card from a kid. She says, it's from Sam. He looks at it. He's like, oh, and he points. This says, get well, Grandpa. And there's a picture of a man on a boat, and some adult wrote love Sam at the bottom. He says, that's me with all the hair. He smiles, she smiles. He puts the card on his work table. He has to turn around away from her to put it on the work table. He says, what a kid. He's looking at the card towards the camera, towards us. Diane's behind him. She gets serious. She says, John, this whole experience, it's been making me think. He's going to turn back around and look at her. He takes off his glasses, like, okay, serious conversation coming. She says, at the hospital, it was so hard. I had no say in your care. And if something had gone wrong, Boz says, yeah, but it didn't. I'm fine. Diane says, well, it's not just that. She takes his hand. She says, at the restaurant, there was a moment, the way you looked, I thought I was losing you. Boz says, oh. Diane says, I love you, and I don't know how much time together we have left. So what are we waiting for? He gets this uh-oh look on his face. She says, now I don't have a ring, and I know you're expecting a big rock. Boz is like, God damn, what are you doing to my heart? He's breathless. She says, so? She's smiling. She's expecting a yes on this. She has no reason to think this isn't going well right now. Boz resolves to tell her something. You know Boz wants to do this, but there's this really big secret he's been keeping from her, and he doesn't feel right to not tell her. I think it's the same instinct in him that made him go to her doorstep with flowers in his hand and say, I should have gone into your house with you yesterday after we hooked up, and I didn't. But I went to prison, him having to come out with that. And she's like, I already know. Yes, fine. She give me the flowers and come inside. It's the same energy that he's bringing to this, where he's like, I did this thing. I didn't tell you. So many people know about it. I can't say yes to this without telling you. But this time she doesn't know about all this stuff. So instead of answering her proposal, he says, do you remember the Patterson housing development? She blinks. She's listening. This is not a normal yes or no response to the question she just asked. She's just sort of like, we're holding on her face. He says, you passed on it. I thought it was worth a second look. We're still holding on her face. She swallows. She says, how much? Boss says, $300K. I wanted to take care of it myself. I didn't want you to know what a fool I was. This is hitting Diane, but she's staying very composed. Boss says, I thought working at Rover would be a win-win, and then we started hitting a wall and I panicked. She's pulling back a little bit. He says, you saw the site. It wasn't good enough. We couldn't get over that hump. So I got Cam to help build the search engine. Diane's thinking all of this through. She's like running the numbers on this. He says, and Donna found out, and then at the restaurant, she knew that. Diane hears Donna's name, like the number of people who now are knowing about all that. He didn't even mention that Gordon knows about all this stuff too. Diane hears Donna's name. She sighs. She gets up. She runs out of the room. Boss is like, I'm sorry. He stands. He sort of walks towards the door, but stops himself. He's like, Diane. He's so pained. He knows he hurt her. He didn't want to. He knew this had to happen eventually. It's so interesting to see Diane's reactions here, because she keeps it so composed on her face, but she got up and ran out of the room. I have more that I'm wondering and thinking about this, but maybe I'll address that when we get to the Diane and Donna stuff later. Okay. Gordon looks out his office blinds. He sees Haley working in the main room. The blinds in the internal wall. He inhales. This is the time he's going to open the door. He calls to her, and we're going to echo the scene we saw earlier where he was pretending to be angry, but he was really about to reveal an exciting thing of rockets to her. Unfortunately, that's not happening this time. He is actually going to have to deliver some hard news from a disappointed place. He calls to her. He says, Haley, come here. She comes into his office. He sits down behind his desk. She says, what is it? Pete's waiting to take me back to school. She's smiling. She has her drink, her milkshake from Hound Dogs. He says, we need to talk about your grades. She says, okay. Or it says, the school called. They said you're failing 2 classes. She says, failing? Like as if this is news. She says, maybe I missed a few tests, but I could just retake them. I'll talk to my teacher. Gordon says, well, we agreed that you could work here if you kept up your grades. That was the deal. She says, so what are you saying? I have to stop working? Gordon says, just temporarily until you can bring your grades back up, and then we can talk. Haley says, but Dad, it's Haley's comet. You wouldn't even have a company if it weren't for me. He stands and he gestures with his hands to sort of like calm her down. He's like, hey, listen, calm down. That's not entirely accurate, Bug. Haley raises her voice. She's like, stop calling me Bug. And why do I even need school? I already have a job. Gord's like, because you need school to learn and to make friends, like a kid your age. I think he's really aware of her age here. Haley's panicking. She says, my friends are here and you can't fire me. They need me. Gordon chuckles here and, oh, this is not the best thing he could have said. He says, okay, I think we'd be able to manage. Like, the idea that you're not actually needed is not something you want to take hold, like in your kid. Like have perspective, but this is a little she throws her whole drink at the internal glass window, the blinds, and it spills all over the window. He says, hey, Haley, clean it up. She says no, very firmly. I mean, Haley's coming into her own here at Comet, where she can say no very firmly. Versus Haley, if you ever want to work here again, you'll clean it up. Actually, he says, if you ever want to work here again, you will clean it up. It's very serious. They both have the same angry face. They're looking at each other. They look really intense. Their nostrils are flaring a little bit. Their lips are kind of pursed in like a frown. Like, it's just they're staring at each other with the same face. Gordon says, Haley, she storms out of this office. He goes to leave his office to continue the argument. He's like, Haley, we see her grab her bag in the main room and in the bullpen, and she runs out of the office past everybody who's just stopping and watching this. She's crying. Everybody's watching. He's like, get back here, Haley. Everybody is now staring at Gordon because Haley just left. Joe is staring at him and his arms are crossed. Gordon's like, what? He just barks it to everybody in the room. Everybody else goes back to work. He goes back into his office and slams the door, except his door has one of those like pneumatic door closers. So it like gets most of the way and then it just goes really slowly the rest of the way. So it cannot physically slam. He wanted the door to slam. He needed the satisfaction of that. So he looks up the pneumatic device and he's like, and then he looks very frustrated. He smooths his hair. We see that Joe is still watching him, motionless. Everybody else is like making themselves busy again. Joe's standing in the same place with his arms crossed. So, I mean, a bit of a tantrum here. Gordon was the bad guy. He had to set the limit, set the boundary with Haley, reinforce that school came over work. But also he doesn't get it. He doesn't get like this thing where he just keeps being like, if you spend more time at school, you'll have friends. And she's like, no, the reality of this is if I spend more time at school, I will be alone. So she would rather be around people. This is where that happens, but she's never really shared all that with her dad or her mom for that matter. And for Gordon to say like, we'd make do without you. Yikes. I can see why she reacted so strongly to that particular comment from him because it's pretty insulting. For him, it's like, have some perspective here, but like, it is just kind of mean. Like, you want to know that you're important in a place that you spend time, that you matter. And he's like, yeah, you don't. I don't know. I don't love that. But anyway, they're angry. They're saying things, and she's not keeping up her end of the deal. So, okay, we're going to see Donna on the phone in her office. She's sitting on her couch on the phone, but we don't see that just yet. She's saying, yes, it's a red leather wallet. I was sitting at the bar. Oh, you do. So the bar that she was at, she left her wallet there. Diane knocks and she walks in. Donna says, I'll come by tonight. Thank you. She hangs up. Diane says, do you have a moment? We're going to get a wider camera shot. So now we can see that Donna's sitting on her couch. Donna says, what's going on? Diane's going to sit down on the opposite arm of the couch, but she's up higher. And I think Diane needs that in this moment because she's realizing that like a bunch of people knew what Boz was up to and didn't tell Diane. And Donna was one of those people. So she's putting herself in a higher status position in this room right now. Diane says, I had a talk with John and apparently he's made some bad decisions regarding Rover, but I think you already know that. Donna's like, well, I had my suspicions, but I didn't know for sure until I saw Cam. Diane says, it's done. Now the important thing is to clean up the mess and move on. Donna says, I couldn't agree more. Cecil is gone. We plan to find someone who can reverse engineer Rover's code. Pause for a second here. Go back to the line from Diane. It's done. Now the important thing is to clean up the mess and move on. I feel like I need to sort of work through this scene with you right now. So Diane hears that from Boz that Boz made this mistake and has been keeping it a secret from her, very ashamed for a while now, but that Cam and Donna know about it at the very least. That Cecil, like he tried a cover up operation with Cecil and Cam, that he brought an outside actor into their business to try to rectify the situation. So there's like quite a lot of steps that have been gone through here to keep all of this from Diane to begin with. And instead of sort of sharing her feelings on that with Boz, she goes to Donna and says, that happened, it's done, and now we clean it up. You know what I'm really wondering right now? What happened with her husband? Her ex-husband. Where did it all go wrong in that relationship? I wonder if, because we know Diane has money. She's got money, a lot of it. And she's got status. And I don't know, in some ways she's wears the pants in the relationship with Boz. And I wonder how much of what Boz is doing is echoes of her ex-husband doing things for her. Like, I'm not sure I don't know where there's overlap and where there's difference. But it makes me wonder, it makes me speculate on how she was in her previous relationship and why that divorce might have taken place. With Diane saying, you know what, it happened. We're going to clean it up and move on. I don't know how she's feeling about Boz in this moment. Clean it up and move on from the standpoint of the business stuff at the very least. Is it the same thing with her feelings about Boz? There's a lot we don't know in this episode, but I am just finding Diane's reaction so interesting. I think one of the things that I loved about when Boz came to her place with the flowers and was like, yeah, I did a thing that hurt you. You asked me to come into your home after we hooked up. And I said no, but here's why. I went to prison. I'm feeling really like insecure about, I think that there are things you should know about me before you embark on this relationship. And she's like, I already knew about that. This is not a thing. Give me the damn flowers and come inside. I think for me, I really celebrated in that moment, like that she was so non-dramatic about it. It was like, she understood the bigger picture here. She's like, I already knew this information. I appreciate that you came in and you wanted to disclose it. That was a plus for her. Even though it was coming after the minus of him sort of like pushing her to the side and ignoring her signals or like declining her signals. But I think there was something about her attitude there that was very like, I see the bigger picture and I'd rather have you in my life. So whatever's happening here, not important. And like, it felt very healthy in that situation. With this, I wonder where, I wonder how she's going to, what the conversation is going to be when she goes back to Boz. Is it just a cleanup matter for Rover and for Agek? Is it also that for Boz? I don't know. We'll be curious to see it. Okay. So now we're going to get to a whole other section of this conversation where Donna says, I couldn't agree more about the cleanup. Cecil is gone. We plan to find someone who can reverse engineer Rover's code. Diane's like, reverse engineer? Why? Donna says, oh, to protect the site from any liabilities. Diane says, but it's Cameron though. If Cameron built the code, the next step, the only step, is to get her to sign a release. That's how we protect the site. This is very paint by number from Diane's perspective. Donna's like, yes. Admittedly, she knows that is the correct solution, but she says, but in this one case, I really think that's the wrong move. Diane's taking this in. She pulls her head back slowly. Donna says, I mean, why let Cameron know how valuable what she gave us was? I mean, better just to create our own version of the algorithm and no one will be any the wiser. Diane says, that doesn't make any sense. Look, there is one simple solution and it should have happened immediately. More firmly, she says, pay Cameron whatever she wants and be done with it. Donna refuses. It's like she is heading towards a childlike tantrum. She says, no, I can't. I can't. I can't. It hurts her to think about having to say that she couldn't do this without Cam. Diane's observing all of this. She sits down on the couch next to Donna and very quietly lays down the law. And this, for me, is another echo of how Donna approached Cecil earlier. Like, Cecil was so angry, and then Donna, very calm voice, sat a bit closer, just the changing of position. There's just an echo in there for me in the very calmness of the approach, trying to level down the other person. Diane says, well, this is what's going to happen. Donna's looking down, not looking at Diane. Diane says, you're going to go to Cameron and get her to sign a release. Donna inhales. She turns to Diane to say something. She's going to push back, but Diane keeps talking. She says, and then you will step away. Donna freezes. She looks at Diane. Diane says, and Trip will take over. Donna's face, whoa, Carrie Bechet, so many feelings flit across her face here, and you can distinguish them. Her face flashes, it's like a gradation, like a gradient between surprise and then dismay and then betrayal. Like, Trip, of all people, you're taking me off this project and you're putting Trip on. Donna's like, that's not fair. She pushes back now, and we see disgust on her face for Trip. Like, Trip. She says, he'll just, him, he'll use it. Diane nods. She says, to become managing partner? Perhaps. Maybe that's best. Donna can't believe Diane just said that. Diane says, frankly, you have bigger issues to deal with. Get yourself together, Donna. I'm tired of holding your hand. And this is where like a little bit of Diane's emotion is starting to seep through, I think. I think on the one hand, it's like, are you behaving in a way that suggests you're able to balance your emotions and just do the business? No, you're going through all of the, instead of just going to Cam and getting her to paying her money and just being able to in that way legally use the code that she wrote, Boz walked away from this company and you let go of one of the founding partners and didn't disclose why that was happening to the rest of the team. So that's going to be weird when they have to like then later find out why they're recreating the code. It's a lot. It's so many steps to take when you only needed to take one. And Diane is very aware of all the backstory between Donna and Cam. She lived it. She was there. She had a front row seat to it all. She knows Donna she has a lot of emotion about all of this, and the emotion is driving her business choices, and they're not good choices as far as Diane's concerned. So Diane's like, would Tripp use it to become managing partner? Maybe that's what's needed here. Like if you can't separate your emotion from the business, frankly, you have bigger issues to deal with, I mean, more tough love. But this get yourself together, Donna, I'm tired of holding your hand is like, I think a little bit of that is Donna knew that this stuff was happening with Boz and did not come tell Diane. I think a little of that's coming through here. Diane goes to leave. Donna fights back. She's like, none of this would have happened if Boz felt like he could just come and talk to you. Donna goes all the way personal. Diane is stunned by this, but she absorbs it. She's not making this a personal thing. She's going to compose herself and leave the room. Like, so is a flaw for Diane not being able to address the personal stuff at all? It makes you wonder in this episode, I think. Like, big picture, we're going to clean this up and move on. We're not going to talk about why it happened. We're going to, like, is that her thing? You don't necessarily know when you see her in this episode. Up until now, I've seen it as a great sign of maturity. In this setting, like, if this became a personal attack confrontation between Donna and Diane for the rest of, this scene, that wouldn't, get them anywhere, because this is a business setting and there is in fact only one thing to do about this situation. And Donna will have just said this thing that she can't take back. And Diane's like, not going there. And she leaves. So it's either maturity or inability to like work through the thing. Donna, after Diane leaves, Donna looks like she wants to apologize as Diane walks out, but she just sort of winces and sighs. So many bad things just happened in this room for Donna. Oh, okay. Now we're going to see a conversation between Alexa and Cam. Alexa, who has emailed Cam 7 times since November. They are at a diner. They're sitting in front of, it's this really cool looking scene. They're sitting in front of this big old timey mural on a wall in this diner. I love the color, but there's like a nice blue color palette here. Cam's looking at the menu. Alexa's not. She's got coffee. She's just looking straight at Cam. Alexa says, I was surprised to get your email. I was about to give up on you. Alexa is she's sort of robotic and forthright. It's really interesting to see the interaction here between Alexa and Cam. Cam looks at her. She closes the menu. She's like, yeah, so what's this about exactly? You, did Atari send you? Or Alexa says, oh, no. Although they were kind enough to give me a copy of Pilgrim. Cam's like, they did? Alexa says, you can get anything if you know how to ask. I thought the game was interesting, flawed, but interesting. Cam's face sort of falls a little bit like, my goodness, this woman just comes right out with it. Alexa says, I mean, I never played a game that actively blocks your way so much. Cam's like, yeah, well, I was trying to respect the gamer, engage them, not treat them like a passive receptacle. But Alexa says, well, respect, sure. But you clearly didn't want anyone to solve the game. Why? I have no idea. That's your thing. But the world that you created to contain the puzzles, that was interesting. She's genuinely interested in that. She says, and the graphics were incredible. Cam squints a little bit like, what is this woman doing? I'm sure they still don't even come close to what you saw in your head. Cam laughs. She says, well, the computer for that doesn't exist yet. Alexa says, you sure? Processor speed is growing at an exponential rate. I've seen what's happening and it's mind-blowing. Because here's the thing. I don't think you're a game designer. Cam's like, what? She's like, oh. Alexa is just totally deadpan. She's like, I think you're a world builder. Cam's never thought of that before. But it's so interesting. All of these outside opinions of Cam are really like sparking feelings in Cam that she hasn't considered, that she's been pushing down for a while. She's been hiding from, frankly. Alexa says, and I'd like to work with you. So, she is so deadpan. So like, and I'd like to work with you. She's so flat, like her bangs are just flat across her face. She's so interesting. Alexa's, I want to see what you do next. She blinks her emotion. The camera, we're now going to see the camera sort of placed underneath the next table and kind of is looking up across the table through them. So it's interesting because Cam really hasn't had anybody talk to her this way in a long time. Like all the ways people are approaching her in this episode, Cam has not had people talking to her like this. So Cam's like, okay, and why should I want to work with you? She says that sort of through a laugh. Alexa says, because here's what I'm offering. No VCs, no interference. You said it missed. What you said it missed was spot on. The model is broken. Parasitic. Cam nods. She says, so I plan to stay out of your way. Cam's listening. She says, well, I do what exactly? Alexa smiles. She says, whatever you want. She sips her coffee. She's got Cam. There are some pretty effective pitches in this episode, I would say. So yeah, Alexa's interesting to me, right? Why this person, when she believes in something, she's willing to be ignored for months at a time and continue to pursue the conversation until somebody sort of turns around and pays attention. She likes what Cam does for none of the reasons that Cam would think. She's not here to stroke Cam's ego exactly. Like she is going to, in the way where she's like, you're very talented. Here's what you're good at. Your game sucked, but Cam puts her soul into these things. Cam put her soul into Pilgrim, and Alexa's like, meh. I love that Alexa makes the comment. Let's see. You clearly didn't want anyone to solve the game. Why? I have no idea. That's your thing. It's so good. It's like, yeah, Cam, you're pushing people away yet again through your game. Of course, Alexa has no idea that Donna has been playing the game, like caught up in it. But how many people have we seen in this show not finish, not enjoy, or be confused by Cam's game? A lot. I love the fact that Alexa really pushes Cam, especially for where Cam is right now. I think whether that's a good partnership long term, I don't know. But Cam is even the people who know Cam really well are pushing her at this particular moment. So this is well placed and well timed. For Cam to say, like, the computer for that doesn't exist yet, like to bring my ideas in my head to the tech world, like to make them real. She says the computer doesn't exist yet. Alexa's like, are you sure? Processor speed is growing. She's like, she's seen what happened and what's happening, and it's amazing. So she's like, are you sure that we can't do what you think you can, like what your ideas are? Totally sure about that? I don't know. It's a very like prodding conversation. Like, come on, Cam, let's get out there again. I'm going to make it really easy for you. It sounds good. Alexa's saying all the right things. I can't help but wonder, like, what's the downside? Like, where's the catch? But I don't know. Alexa seems to be interested in some sort of benefactress kind of way. All right, Gordon's cleaning the drink off of his window. Joe comes in. He's like, you okay? Gordon says, yep. Joe says, you want to talk? He picks up the empty Hound Dog's cup from the floor. Gordon says, nope. Joe's looking at the cup. He says, Hound Dogs, we were just there yesterday. He sits in Gordon's chair. He's the one taking charge in the room. Gordon says, yep, she loves that place. No idea why. The food sucks. Joe says, maybe it's not about the food. When is she coming back to the office? Gordon says, no idea. She no longer works here. Joe says, what did you do? Fire her? Gordon's pretty irritated still. He's like, I gave her a choice and she walked. Joe says, so get her back. Gordon's like, Joe, she's flunking her classes and copying some major attitude. Joe says, you don't understand. Haley needs this place. She's not like other kids. She's got different interests. I love watching how Joe's handling this conversation too. Like, he had to be careful when he was with Haley at Hound Dogs, and he has to be careful here talking with Gordon because he does not want to out Haley. He wouldn't have wanted somebody to do that with him, and he isn't going to do that with her. But there's also, as Gordon's parent, as Gordon being her parent, is missing really important information and thinks that he is making the right call in encouraging Haley to go back to school instead of working. But Joe is very keenly aware of how like counterproductive that actually might be, but he can't tell Gordon why. So this is a really strange conversation for him to navigate. They're both thinking that they're acting on behalf of Haley's best interests, but Gordon has missing information here that might change what he thinks her best interests actually are. So Gordon, so he's like, Joe says she's got different interests. Gordon is cleaning. He says, well, good for her. Joe, he's trying to choose his words. He says, she's a little like me. Gordon pauses. We see him through the milkshake covered window. He says, when I was a kid, I would have given anything for a place like this, some place I could feel like I belonged. This is about as close as Joe can get to saying what he wants to say without breaking Haley's confidence, without outing her. Gordon says, yeah, well, this is what parenting is. Gordon's pretty frustrated. He looks back at Joe. He says, setting limits, being consistent, and discipline. Joe's disappointed. He says, you sound like my dad. Gordon says, don't even start to compare me to your father because the two of us are not even in the same universe. Joe says, all I'm saying is, he gives this little sigh because he can't out Haley. He says, he never really saw me. He just wanted me to be like him. And Gordon's pissed. He's like, all I'm saying is that I see Haley just fine, okay? I may not sit around sipping milkshakes with her, but I know exactly who my daughter is. He's like, get out of my parent lane, cool uncle. Yeah, Joe says, are you sure about that? I'm sure you know who Haley really is. Gordon stands. He's angry. He's angry, and now he's stood up to the place where like the golden hour light is blaring in behind him. He says, all right, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Joe says, nothing. I just want what's best for Haley. Gordon says, oh, come on, Joe. You don't give a shit about her beyond what she can do for this company. You just want what's best for you. He kneels down to clean the window again. He's like, that's why you're not a parent and you never will be. Ouch. Ah. You know, I feel like this is the thing that he'll wish he didn't say. And Donna just previously in the last scene had a thing that she might wish she didn't say to Diane. Joe takes it on the chin. He absorbs it. After a pause, he's like, you are right. He's not going to go further. He is not going to out Haley. So he gets up and he leaves. We're going to see Gordon through the milkshake covered window. He's been wiping it with a rag. He's going to throw the rag at the window and it just splats on the window. It's a startling way to end that scene. I mean, look, maybe by the end of the episode, after Gordon sees what he sees, he'll replay this conversation in his head, and he'll put new context to it, and he'll take some things that Joe was saying and he'll think about them in a new way, and it'll inform him in a new way. He cannot see it that way in this moment. So on the surface, it just looks like Joe is saying, you don't get it as a parent. And, you know, because that is true if you're missing the information that Joe has. I mean, it's tough because Haley really entrusted Joe with a secret. Not directly, but she brought him into the world and let him observe her with Vanessa. So, and he, just as much as anybody, could have seen the bird on the El Gordo rocket. So, like, she brought him in. He's the first person that she did that with. And while he can't out her, there's a responsibility for him to be an advocate for her here. But how far can you go with that? I think he walked about the best line he could here, but it's not going to land if Gordon doesn't know why he's doing that. Okay. We are going to cut to Pilgrim, the game. Pilgrim is standing in a field of tall grass. There's shooting lights all around. What a beautiful game. Donna is sipping wine and she's playing the game. Joni enters. She's like, whoa, what level is that? Joni is wearing this belted black dress. Looks way more, like, way fancier for school than anything I would ever have thought to wear. Haley, meanwhile, has overalls and pigtails. I mean, that's the difference in their style here. Donna's like, hey guys, how was school? Joni puts her bag down in the kitchen. Haley keeps walking. She's pissed. She's ignoring everybody. Donna watches Haley go. She looks at Joni. Like, what was that? Joni says she had a fight with Dad. Donna knows exactly what that means. That was the fight that she told Gordon to have with Haley. So she's like, what are you doing home so early? Joni says that to Donna. Donna's like, I wasn't feeling well. Joni sits in a chair near the computer where Donna's sitting. And she's like, oh, cutting work. Nice. Look at you being all the same Donna who did a cartwheel off a quarry and didn't kill herself. Okay, so she's like, oh, cutting work. Nice. We had a cool sub today. Donna is looking at Pilgrim, barely listening. She says, yeah. Joni's excited here, though. She says she's American, but she went to college in France. I'll say what I'm thinking in a second. Donna turns to her now. She's paying attention. She says, like, Joni continues, apparently you can do like some international student thing. And she said it's like, it was amazing. And that she saw these films at the Cinematheque. Donna's smiling and shaking her head listening to all this. And Joni's like, and they have all these really cool programs for film and photography. And Donna interrupts. She's like, do you know what I love about you, Joni? Joni shakes her head no. She's smiling a little bit like, oh, is this going to be another compliment? No, it's the same compliment. Donna says, you're so fearless. Donna wheels her chair all the way over to Joni. And she's sitting right in front of her now. She's like, Joni's not smiling anymore. She's like, what is up? This is the conversation we had last time. Joni nods imperceptibly. Joni looks over Donna's shoulder and sees the wine glass that's next to the computer. Donna says, I hope you never lose that. Joni's still looking at the wine for that whole thing. And then she looks down. It's just sad. Like Joni felt so seen and loved when Donna had that same conversation with her the first time. But now Donna's drunk and she's having the same conversation. And this is just sad. And she's playing Pilgrim. She's been obsessing over Cam's game. I mean, it's just sad. So Joni's looking down. Donna says, just don't ever say no to something because you're scared. We get a tight close-up of Donna now. We still see Joni looking down. Donna grabs Joni's hand. She says, you want to come play with me? Oh boy. Joni looks uncomfortable at all this. Donna's like, come on, I'll show you all my secrets. She's got this really charismatic, creepy smile. I mean, it's all just sad. Joni gets aloof. She's like, it's okay. I'm gonna go check with Haley and see what she's up to. Joni gets up to leave. Donna's like, okay. Joni says, yeah. Donna turns back to Pilgrim. She sips wine. Donna's like, where do you want to go? She says that to Pilgrim. She's speaking with Cam's game. She's speaking with Cam. What an interesting, first of all, Catherine Newton. A scene like this shows you how good Catherine Newton is as a young actor. She's been in a lot of stuff. Her career is absolutely on the rise. She has been in even from when she was young, so many amazing projects with a lot of really impressive casts. And she holds her own. And I also want to plug something. If you asked me to name the show that I wish would have gotten more than one season, I would say The Society, which Catherine Newton starred in. She was #1 on the call sheet for that. And it was a show that just fell victim to COVID. They had a second season promised to them. They were going to start shooting it. COVID happened. They couldn't. There was a long enough delay where they couldn't pursue it. Probably partly because almost pretty much everybody in the show was about Catherine's age or a little bit younger. And so if you go too long, the storylines won't make sense anymore because people will have grown up a little bit even more. And it just won't make sense. I think also there were a bunch of overseas actors for that show, so it was just harder and harder to bring them back. But it's a pretty cool show, actually, and some very interesting characters, and Catherine Newton was amazing in it. So check that out if you haven't seen it, if you want to see more Catherine Newton. But she's been in a lot of stuff. Check out her IMDb. You'll be amazed. So Catherine Newton's really good in this scene, in this show, in this episode. I also really like the idea that once again, we have somebody revealing something very personal to them that they're getting excited about. We saw Haley do it. We saw Donna do it with Bobby. We're seeing Joni do it. She is revealing really important information about herself to Donna. She's sitting down and saying, "Here's me." And Donna's too drunk to take it in. So it's just sad for Joni because she sees the wine and this is not the first time. She knows what's up and she wants to disengage with her mom. It's not healthy for her to continue this conversation, and she leaves. And I like that she does that. But this whole thing that she's revealed, this idea that they had this cool sub today who has traveled and like film and pick and photography, like these are interests for her that she's really inspired by. And Donna may not even remember that this happened. So it's sad to go from having something like Joe really clocking what was going on with Haley, but Gordon not. Like the direct parents in this situation are not spotting what what their kids are telling them. Man. All right. We're going to see Joe looking at a Post-it on his computer in his apartment. He's got a very serious face. The note says, "Went to Airstream, need to thank XOC." The phone rings. He answers. He says, "Hello." Boz says, "Oh, Joe. Hey, it's Boz. Is Cameron there?" Joe says, "Oh, sorry. You want to leave a message?" Boz says, "No, I'll just call back later." Boz is outside on his porch. He stands with some effort. You can hear a little grunt, and Joe hears that. He takes off his glasses. He says, "Hey, how are you holding up?" He leans back in his chair. Boz sighs. We see a small Boz on a big porch. Diane's house is huge. Boz says, "Well," and then we're going to cut to Joe with Boz in Boz's garage. Just thinking about that first little part of the scene. People called Joe's place to leave messages for Cam, but Joe has no way to give those messages to Cam until he sees her because she doesn't have a phone and she doesn't have internet. So leaving a message through Joe isn't necessarily a lot more effective until Joe sees Cam. I was just really thinking about that as I was talking through this scene. Okay, we're going to cut to Joe with Boz in Boz's garage. They're opening beers together. They both drink. Boz says, "What a mess." Joe nods. He's out of focus, though. Boz says, "Well, I told myself it was pride, just stupid pride. But the truth is, I wanted to know I still mattered. I wanted to know I could shake things up." Joe is listening to all of this. Boz is like, "Mission accomplished." They is shook. Well said, Boz. Joe's like, "Yeah, well, I wouldn't know anything about that." Ironically, Boz laughs. Joe smiles. They can laugh about it now, can't they? Joe says, the things I've done, he sighs. He says, I don't even know why I did them. I just wanted everything and I didn't care what or who I had to go through to get it. Boz says, yeah, that guy. He was a real asshole. I think I hired him once. Joe smiles. Boz laughs. Joe's like, well, maybe I'm still that guy and everybody can see it but me. Boz is very genuine with him. He says, no. Recognizing you're an asshole is half the battle, but I've seen how honest you've been with Cam. That's a different man than the one I first met, Joe. I could have used some of that myself. He's very quiet when he's delivering that. Just once again, I feel like this is reminding me of how Gordon was talking to Cam earlier. Like, come on, like you dream in code. Like this is, you can't be washed up at 32. Like that energy that he brought for Cam, Boz is kind of bringing that for Joe here, where Joe's really questioning his character, and Boz is like, no, you're different. Like, don't base your past action. Don't base your current self off of your past actions. Okay, so I could have used some of that myself, Boz says, how in terms of how honest he's been with Cam. Joe says, we've got our no-go zones. Boz is like, well, sure, you lie and you say you love the ballet or whatever. Joe says, or maybe one of you wants kids and the other one doesn't, so you just keep it to yourself. Boz is surprised. Cam wants kids. Joe politely shakes his head. It's like, Boz says, well, maybe she'll surprise you. They hear a car approach. Joe puts his beer down. He was just helping Boz pass the time and the anxiety till Diane came home. Joe gestures towards the car sound. She might surprise you too. He stands up to go. He says, good luck. He turns back as Boz opens the garage door with the remote. Joe says, if you need a place to stay, you're always welcome. Boz nods to him and he smiles. These two, I have a lot of things that I think about this scene. First of all, Joe saying maybe one of you wants kids, the other doesn't, so you just keep it to yourself. Neither of them are really keeping it to themselves, to be honest. Like they're both making comments that make their positions very clear. They just have not directly said, would you ever want kids with me? But we, I think, have enough information to know that they both don't have the same position on this. So I think there's that, right? I love the grace they're both giving each other in this scene. I think Boz is really, especially a Boz that just had a really serious health scare. He's approaching Joe with this very kind energy that Joe really needs. Joe hasn't done anything wrong here. But Joe's licking his wounds after the Gordon conversation. I think this is a great time for him to lean on a friend that he never really leaned on before. And Boz definitely needs a friend to lean on right now. And I think they're finding each other in this moment, and it's beautiful. So beautiful that they're able to be like that mutual support for each other. I'm so glad that, like the challenges that Cam and Joe have in their relationship and the things they want and don't want right now and the ways that they're communicating. It's good to know that Gordon is sort of like pulling Cam off to the side and being like, okay, like maybe stop being so lost. And Boz is sort of pulling Joe to the side and saying, yeah, maybe give yourself a little more credit. Like these are some things that they need to work through in their relationship, but having people outside the relationship help them sort of like boost themselves up may feed into what happens in their Joe Cam dynamic. And Boz must be terrified right now of what's about to happen with Diane. Must be terrified. His whole, where's he going to live? Like for Joe to say, you have a place to stay if you need it. No. Also, not to beat a dead horse on this is the kind of scene that makes me feel like Boz did not order the beatdown on Joe in season 1. I know this is a long time later, but we have seen a Boz since season 2, since getting out of prison, who goes on apology tours, who has an honesty instinct eventually. Even if he holds information from Diane for a while, he is eventually going to come in and say, got to tell you this before we move forward. He's a guy who needs to, he doesn't feel comfortable with the guilt of the secret. So he has to eventually come out with it. And he will say he's sorry for things. Boz has never once said sorry to Joe for the thing that he speculatively did. So I don't feel like he could have done it. I feel like at this point, we would have heard Boz say something, especially to get to a scene like this, where you've got this much love between them. Like, how would he still be keeping that secret? So that is that's one of the reasons why, like, if you look back, it makes less sense than it did in the moment for it to be Boz. Anyway, putting that away. Okay, so let's go to Donna driving. Her red wallet is on the front passenger seat of the car as she's driving. We hear Pat Benatar's "We Belong" playing in the car. Raise your hand if you have ever sung "We Belong" at the top of your lungs driving a car. Yep. Many times. This is a good song to belt out in a car. All right. I do not advocate doing so while drunk. All right. We see Donna driving. She's muttering the words of the song up until she gets to the chorus, and then she's singing loudly, but she is inebriated. So it's not crystal clear what she's saying, but she's trying to sing along loudly. We get an extreme close-up. She's, as she's singing, it looks like she's gonna cry. Like, she's just so emotionally affected right now. I mean, "We Belong" will do that to you. Then we see police lights, and then we hear a siren, and she looks a little worried. She pulls the car over, she stops. We see her in her driver's side mirror, her reflection. She turns off the car and the music. She puts her hand to her head. I think I'm going to hold off on a comment about this for a second, but this reminded me of 3:10. But I'll circle back to that in a moment. Okay, we're going to cut to an officer letting her out of the North Precinct building. She was brought in. She looks very ashamed. She's doing a walk of shame out to Gordon, who's waiting for her at his car. This man has a driver, Pete. Gordon picked her up. Pete was off the clock. This isn't even really safe for Gordon to do. But he picked her up because that's how he'll do that. They say nothing to each other at first. He's sort of is leaning against the passenger side door. He opens it up, lets her in. She's like she's walking awkwardly, still kind of a little drunk probably. Interesting camera setup here. We're now looking through the car next to them, through the windows of that car into the windows of their car, Gordon's car. We see him shut the door. He goes around gets into the driver's seat. Her head is down. Then we're going to get this scene where the camera is now placed like in the back seat across from wherever, whoever's talking. So in the back passenger seat, we are looking at Gordon, who says, "So what happened?" Donna says, "I had 2 glasses of wine. The cop obviously needed to fill his quota. Our tax dollars at work." She's being very deflective here, not taking ownership. Gordon's like, but I mean, you've never gotten a ticket before. Donna, we're seeing her from the back seat of the driver's side. She says, "Yeah, well, now I have." She laughs a little. From outside her window, we watch her laughing. Gordon's face comes into view. He goes forward a little bit. He says, "What?" She's looking straight ahead. She says, "I was just picturing my 22-year-old self walking into AGGEK, lugging the symphonic." She sits down, she pitches, and I crush her. The young me doesn't stand a chance. She laughs softly. It's like, what have I become? Corbin says, oh, please. He looks at her. He says, that 22-year-old was hardly sweet and innocent. And the present you isn't so ruthless. And they're all you, all the versions. You're the same person that you always were. And I love that person. This is making me tear up when I watched it, and it's making me tear up to read this to you now. She cries. He puts his hand next to her hand, and he's like, he's not holding her hand. He's sort of like touching. I can't do this. He's like touching the back of her hand lightly, just to like a connection is made. There are many ways to interpret a connection is made in the title, but like for me, that is one simple way of doing it. I think there's a more obvious one at the end of this episode, but just she looks down. She sees that this connection is happening. She looks at him. She's so ashamed. She looks forward. He turns on the car. Talk about people soothing each other. What a difference there is in this episode between people who aren't really seeing each other and people who really are, and who are like giving the other person the thing they absolutely need at that moment. And this is definitely a situation where Gordon is giving Donna what she absolutely needs to hear in this moment. She's gotten to this place where she's like, what have I become? She's not happy about it. And he's like, I think you're thinking that this is more polarized than it might actually be. Like, you're not that far a cry away from who you want to be. All of those pieces are within you if you just let them be there. Man, you're the same person that you always were, and I love that person. He doesn't want to be married to her, but like, okay, like she's still amazing. He's willing to pick her up. Like he is willing to drive in an unsafe circumstance to pick her up, to be there for her. Okay. We're at a low moment for Donna. The next day, we're going to see Donna driving and it's daylight. She looks in her rearview mirror. She's in an area with a lot of trees. She's all dressed up. She's not going to work. She got dressed up just for this. She's got her earrings on. She's like armor. She's looking very official. She's just shaking her head. She looks very vulnerable, even though she's all dressed up. She drives on the road that we've seen Cam drive many times. She pulls into Cam's property. We see Donna's eyes in the rearview mirror and the airstream ahead of her, which is a great way of giving us a sense of place. I keep thinking about the fact that we keep seeing Donna's face in mirrors in her car, and it reminds me of 3:10. When, Cam says, I want to work on this project, but not if you're on it. And Donna takes herself off of the project, walks out of the office into her car, cries, looks so frustrated, looks so upset and angry, and then looks in the mirror, wipes her tears, and sort of like composes herself and makes a call to compete against their project. And I just keep thinking about her looking in the mirror. I feel like we bookended it here in a way. Like that was the beginning of Ruthless Donna. And this makes me wonder if this is the end of Ruthless Donna or the beginning of the end for Ruthless Donna. Maybe Donna looking in mirrors in her car is closing this little chapter of how she's being and how she's behaving. We'll have to see. Okay, so Donna has pulled onto Cam's property. Cam's next to the Airstream. The door is open. She waves. Donna smiles and stops the car, but it's like a perfunctory smile, just doing it. She has to. Cam is in her overalls and gum boots. Haley would be very proud. Cam says hi. Donna looks around like, oh, this is the place. Thanks for letting me come by. We see them through the windshield, like there's somebody observing them from the car. Cam says, sure. Donna gestures with her folder, like, can we get down to it? This is too weird. Cam points to the fire pit area with the seat. She says, should we sit down? Donna sits. It's awkward for her but it doesn't seem at all awkward for Cam. Donna opens the folder. They're at a table. Donna says, obviously we'll compensate you. Cam says, so she hands Cam the papers. We'll compensate you. I thought we could start. Cam says, no need. Donna looks at her. She says, no payment necessary. Cam signs the paper, closes the folder, and hands it back. She's just signing papers people give to her, whether it's Tom or Donna. She's going to sign it. Like, what's the path of least resistance here? Donna almost smiles, but she doesn't. She doesn't really feel like smiling here. She's looking down. Cam is looking right at her. Cam is very comfortable to make eye contact with Donna. Donna is not. Donna says, okay, well, thank you. Don't worry. I won't tell Joe. Cam says he already knows. Donna gives this lipless smile, like, she breathes deeply. She stands to walk away. Because it's like, Cam's even been honest about that with the people in her life. Like, there's just, like, there's nothing she's got on Cam here. So Cam says, hey, as Donna's walking away. Donna reluctantly turns back. She's like, you okay? Donna doesn't know if or how to respond to this. And then we get the honking of a horn because the MCI truck is coming. If this MCI truck hadn't interrupted, I do wonder if Donna would have sort of confided anything or had any sort of a reconciliation with Cam here. But we won't know, right? So the driver waves to Cam. She waves back. Cam looks back at Donna and her eyebrows give this like subtle indication, like, are you okay? Say what you want to say. Donna holds up the folder. She's like, thanks for this. I won't bother you again. Donna gives a fake smile and walks away. Cam is going to stand looking after her. So, the amount of hours Donna has clocked at this point playing Cam's game, like, she's really trying to make peace with something here. I think she's really trying to understand something, but she cannot do that with Cam physically in front of her. What's interesting too is, like, when you look at their dynamic, Cam did deal the last blow. Like, Donna was most recently betrayed by Cam, but Cam was betrayed by Donna. Technically, they are even. Like, Cam got voted out of the Mutiny Project. Donna took herself off of the Lodestar Project, or whatever they were working on immediately after 310. So they've both done something bad. They both have done betrayals. Donna's was just the most recent, and I think Cam perpetrating the attack against Donna really in 310 might have made her feel like she could make peace to some extent, but I don't even think so. I think Cam still carried baggage from that. I think everything that Cam's been going through in the last, let's say, year has probably been giving her some different perspective. She's been thinking about things. Cam is at a place where she's ready to look Donna in the face, and Donna cannot meet that. She's just so raw in terms of her emotions. All right, we're going to see Gordon in the back seat of his car being driven by Pete, because this is how he's normally driven around now. This is how he normally goes by car anyway. Gordon says, hey, Pete, slow down. I want to make a quick stop. We're going to see the car stop. We haven't seen Pete. We just see the car stop. Gordon gets out. He leaves the door open. I mean, is he going to make Pete close this door? He walks toward the Hound Dogs. He walks into Hound Dogs, looks around. He shakes his head. It's like, what does Haley see in this place? We see Vanessa at the register. She says, welcome to Hound Dogs. Can I help you? Gordon looks at the menu. He says, yeah, let me get a breakfast burrito and a small coffee. Vanessa rings it up. She says, yeah, that'll be $2.80. Wow, $2.80. Awesome. Remember, the camera now pushes in on her tattoos. She's got 2 tattoos, one here, sort of underneath her collarbones. They are blue, yellow, and red birds, like we're on the El Gordo rocket. Vanessa calls back. She says, "Can I get a burrito and a small coffee?" The camera, which has been pushing in on her tattoos, now rotates to Gordon's face so that we can see he was looking at them. He sees the tattoos. He looks from her face to the tattoos, and he gets it. He understands now what Joe understood in the conversation that he just had with Joe. And he's maybe now going to play back some of these comments that Joe made. Like, it might have helped that Joe gave him some clues, like, she's kind of like me. Some of these things that he said might now make it snap into context a lot quicker for Gordon, but he gets it. So we're going to see one more thing here. We're at Cam's. The MCI truck is driving away. She watches it go for a while. We can't see her face, but when we do get to see her face, when she turns her face to the side, we see that she's smiling. We now cut to Cam inside the Airstream. She has a whole computer set up now. She's got a modem. She's got an RDA radio distribution amplifier to get her some more signal in this really remote area that she's in. She's typing something into the computer. We hear the sound of the dial-up. We hear the modem. She's connecting to the internet. The camera sort of weaves through that to her face. And we see Cam with closed eyes. It's like a meditative moment for him. She's listening to the sound of the modem. And it's just like this inner peace washes over her. She smiles. And then we look outside the Airstream, and now there's this huge dish. Maybe it's part of the radio distribution amplifier. It's on top of the Airstream now. Cam is back online, everyone. If you want to email Cam, you can contact her. Go ahead. She can get your message. How great is that? She's reconnecting to the world. She's finding some independence in that from Joe, who had to pass all the messages along to her before. She's, and there are many people who have the assist on this. Joe, Gordon, we've got Alexa, we've got Haley, whoever made that fanfic site. I mean, so many good things about this for Cam. It just feels like she has felt so lost for so long, and this feels like she's finding herself again. This is sort of the root of something in this is the root of Cam. And I think that's important that she's refinding that for herself. All right, let's get to the music from this episode. First of all, I mean, there's like 5 songs, and there's some big ones here. We've got 7 Seas by Echo and the Bunnymen from 1984. This is when Gordon, Katie, Haley, Joe, and Cameron, they're setting off the rockets. Very fun, playful scene. We've got Sweet Jane by Cowboy Junkies from 1988. Donna does a cartwheel. It's the whole Donna and Joni scene, the first time that she's telling Joni how, she's so brave and it's so great. We've got Jump Right Out of This Jukebox by Oni Wheeler. I don't know how you pronounce that name. From 1959. That's when Boz was working in his garage. We have, of course, We Belong by Pat Benatar with Donna backup. From 1984, Donna Drives Drunk. When you get rights to songs, it can't be easy to tell somebody, okay, so this song is going to be in a scene where there's a character getting a DUI. Like, feels like that would be hard to clear, but they got it. I Found the Star by Fastbacks from 1994. This is when Gordon goes to Hound Dogs. Now, those are the songs. Favorite quote from the episode. Donna says, so I'm going to do some honorable mentions first. There's a lot of good quotes here. Donna says, I do know what it feels. I do know what it's like to feel like a failure, to feel like you don't measure up. Got one from Haley. We used to go all the time until my mom blew her hand off. It's just, we didn't even see it coming. Oh, Haley. Got one from Joni. Next time I get in trouble, remember it's because I'm being brave. I've got a pretty pithy one from Haley. That's why the web's so great, because no one pretends. You just put it out there, who you really are. And if people respond to it, that's great. But if not, who cares? At least they saw you and not just some projection, you know? So such a fun way to get like a take on the internet from that time. We've got one from Alexa. I just had to share this one. You clearly didn't want anyone to solve the game. Why? I have no idea. That's your thing. Okay, my quote of the episode is going to be a Donna quote. I had like multiple things in this and I rotated them around and then I finally landed on Donna's quote, which was, I was just picturing my 22-year-old self walking into AGGEK, lugging the symphonic. She sits down, she pitches, and I crush her. That's my quote of the episode. Real moment of realization from Donna. Okay, let's get into the feedback. I'm bringing in all kind of greatest hits. There are a bunch of pieces of feedback here that I've been saving forever. And I've been really excited to have a place to bring them back in. And I knew I was going to have to wait for a minute, but here we are. But anyway, we're going to start with more of a comment from @CamHouseGF from 308. @CamHouseGF says, honestly, I never thought that Haley and Joni's descriptions could be considered as a metaphor for Gordon and Donna's marriage at this point in the show. Interesting. So, it's something that I've been playing with a little bit in the feed, in how I look at their relationship and how I look at their kids' dynamics with the parents and with each other. And, at around 308, I guess I was, putting some parallels between the two girls and Gordon and Donna themselves. But I think it's something that you see playing out even more now if you've waited until season 4, because we see older Haley and Joni. We see Haley, having these moments of connection with Gordon. We see Joni having these moments of connection with Donna. And to be frank, those connections are misconnections here. Now, I do think that Gordon now has hope because he's gone to Hound Dogs and he knows what the significance of Vanessa is. And I have more hope for where they are in their dynamic. But we've seen how much it makes these kids light up to have their parents really have this moment of seeing them and this connection being made. And by the way, I didn't say this, I didn't make this really clear, but a connection is made being the title of this episode probably is most likely referring to Cam at the end of the episode. But I do think that there are these moments of connection between so many of the characters, Haley and the group, Haley and Gordon, Haley and Joe, Joni and Donna. Those are definite ones. Gordon and Donna in the car for sure. Boz and Joe, that's not a pairing you see a whole lot these days. How lovely is that? Gordon and Cam. Alexa finally connected with Cam after trying to get her attention all this time. So there's a lot of like personal connections and also Cam's connection to the internet and to the world itself. But yeah, this thing with Haley and Joni, it's just interesting to me to see like their development and in relationship to their parents and what that looks like. Okay, a comment from Sergio from 405. Hello, Sergio. A despondent Boz standing outside Cam's door after she kicked him out broke my heart. Boz is like the grandfather I always wanted. See, this is why I like getting other people's perspectives. I always thought Joe's reaction to Cam's confession about creating the algorithm was one of disappointment. I never thought about the correlation between her confession to Tom and her confession to Joe and how that might make Joe feel like he's next on the chopping block. I've really enjoyed watching them grow from hooking up at a dirty arcade to the lovers they are now. Also interesting how the tables have turned from season 1 when Cam asked Joe if he was going to get bored of her. Now it seems Joe is struggling to keep her attention. Okay, so first of all, there's going to be more feedback on the Cam and Joe stuff. But first of all, Boz, I broke my heart too to see Boz pleading, so desperate outside Cam's door at the end of that one scene. And now I just think Boz has hit the reset button. All the honest things that need to be put out there are put out there. Maybe people can, in a meaningful way, support him. Maybe he can dig himself out of the financial hole that he is in right now. I don't know. I mean, he is, having said that, like, he must be terrified about what's going to happen when he reconnects with Diane, when she wheels into the garage here. But I feel better for Boz that there's, everything's kind of out on the table. And Sergio, I'm so glad that my comments sort of made you interpret or look at the Cam and Joe car scene a little differently from the last episode. We'll see. I think there's more than one way to interpret that scene. But it's fun to have the different angles to look at these things through. And yeah, it's been fun to see these two characters together are just, they're in a really different place than they were when we first saw them in the pilot. Present hour 24. Hello. Let's talk about a comment from 308. My favorite quote is from Cam. "You can't live off Dr. Pepper and cheese forever. Believe me, I've tried." It's very funny to me because I do believe Cameron did try that, and she's actually found out it's not physically possible. Present hour 24, that's when she moved on to cheese egg. That might be sustainable. And Joe has found an appreciation for it too, of all things. How great is that? Okay, Amelia Flowers. A few comments here. So we're going to start with one from 308. And at the time, this was a spoilery comment. Spoiler for season 4. "I guess Joe's ongoing connection to Joni and Haley is the reason he ultimately decides he wants children." Oh yeah, I loved that show Alf. When Cam sends out the flare for Ryan, Alf is her username. I wanted to include that here because I didn't realize that. Alf. But let's talk about Joni and Haley, shall we? What a journey Joe's been on with this whole wanting kids thing. I mean, I think for sure the connection with Joni and Haley made a big difference. The episode was at 106 with the hurricane. That was Joe's first time really engaging with Joni and Haley. He spends an evening with the Clarks minus Gordon, who's out looking for Cabbage Patch Kids. And he's really I think he goes into the house. When he comes out of the house, he wants what Gordon has. I think he already, maybe not to the degree of saying I want kids myself, but I think he really found a fondness in having that interaction with Gordon's family, to the point where in that episode he went back to Cam. He knocked on her door. He said, "Show me what you're working on." He gives her the honest explanation of where his scars came from, as far as we know. So even that first time he really spends time with Joni and Haley, he's already starting to experience changes as a human. And then, we know that he's spent a lot of time with those kids over the years. We know that he was very much babysitting for them. In the end of season 3 to the beginning of season 4, he's spent a lot of time with these girls. He's seeing them grow up. He's working with Haley. We saw, when they decided they're going to really work on Comet, and Haley comes over, Joe comes over to Gordon's place, and they have Comet. They're working on it up on the projected onto Gordon's screen. I love that Joni was there, and Joni and Joe had this funny little ribbing energy about them, and he could totally take her sarcasm and her, but he could turn it around, and she cared about him also. We've definitely seen a long journey with Gordon's kids for Joe, and I think for sure that was part of it. I also think that, we know from the phone conversation he had with Cam in 402, Joe saying like his dad passing away really gave him some perspective that he's not his dad. And part of the reason he didn't feel comfortable having kids before was that he was afraid he was going to be like his dad again and just like pass that on to the next generation. And so he wasn't comfortable with that. And then when he realized he wasn't like his dad, that sort of opened up the floodgates a little bit more as well. So we've seen all of these different things with Joe where he's really and I think like his ability to be in a mentorship role with Ryan and with Haley has something to do with it as well. I think he sees that he can be he can have a connection that feels positive with people. Comes with a lot of baggage for Ryan, but there were moments that felt really good. So thank you very much for that thought. Now let's look at some Amelia Flowers comments from 402. Haley's way to speak through tech reminds me of Cam's own journey as told to Boz during the hurricane. In subsequent episodes, the relationship between Haley and Joe is beautiful. I'm sure that Joe's association with the Clark girls since they were small colored his view of he would have been better. I always think that the Joe that entered that house in season 1, episode 6 was very different from the Joe that left. I keep picturing his unguarded, smiling face in the kitchen when toweling off his hair and shirt surrounded by the girls and Donna. This must have given him the idea of how a real family life should have been. The spell is broken when Gordon comes in as he walks to the car. I think he looks back at the house and realizes how alone he is. Connecting another comment. And as the new babysitter as well, perhaps even reading them bedtime stories, Joe is able to trial being a parent and be a parent to girls. For sure, it would have made him reflect on his own upbringing. There's so much in all of their lives we don't see. I'm pretty sure that there was some abuse in Joe's life. His father would have been used to giving orders and having them obeyed from being in the Navy and high up in IBM. It's also likely that Joe Sr.'s own childhood, his father would have expected in obedience. There is a tendency to parent in the same way as you were parented. Joe Sr. would have probably not accepted what he saw as deficiencies in his son, wanting to break and reshape, getting rid of his differences, his softness and dreams, and focus them in practical ways. I'm sure Joe Sr. thought toughing Joe up for the world and to earn money was something practical and in the long term good for Joe. Obviously, it's very different from the child's perspective and one that is both grieving and yearning for love and acceptance. Joe never had that. And we get the idea that in a relationship with Simon in his 20s, maybe 25, he had no idea how to give or receive love. He has been on one hell of a journey to get here at 45. So beautifully said. I don't even really want to speak to that because it is sort of playing off of the things I was just saying as well. But I mean, yeah, it's so interesting to see this journey specifically through this lens. It's beautifully said. Thank you, Amelia. Let's get a comment here from Synthetic Gerbil from 405. You know, I never truly understood what was going on with Haley exactly during that scene before Joni asks her what's wrong. It's definitely a sweet moment, and I think we are left to draw our own conclusions on what's on Haley's mind. But I do wonder what the intent was more specifically from the writers there. I like the speculation here a lot. I always thought maybe it was simply just that Haley was a little jealous of Joni bonding with Katie, but maybe it really is her dealing with the thought that this new woman Gordon is dating might actually stick in a big way, and she's confused inside about how she should feel towards that. Yeah, that scene where Katie is on sharing headphones with Joni listening to the PJ Harvey song, and Haley's just like hanging back watching them. And also Synthetic Gerbil, I really hadn't clocked the fact that Haley had literally stormed away from the air hockey table after Joe announced very publicly that Gordon is screwing the chief ontologist. So you know, there is really some awkwardness there to the point where it's almost weird how quickly that turns around in this episode, but maybe Haley's had time to think about it and come to grips with it. And she works with Katie, like she otherwise likes Katie. So maybe it's not that hard to put it away. But yeah, I think it's what I like about the fact that there's so much ambiguity around that is that Haley has been a really internal character. Her parents don't even know what's happening in her brain. You know, that part is a challenge for them to decipher. She's not really herself at home. So the only place we can see Haley feeling like herself is these windows when she's at Comet, maybe these moments when she's interacting with Vanessa, and we see her start to come to life. And so to have a scene where you're not really sure what Haley's thinking feels appropriate because Haley is working that out and Haley's not verbalizing it to people. Even when she brings Joe to Hound Dogs, she brings him there. She lets him witness everything that's happening for her, but she still doesn't speak it aloud. And she's flustered when Vanessa leaves and she's like, oh, what were we saying? Like, she's not even acknowledging that that moment happened in that way, but it's like she brought Joe into her internal world with her and Joe saw what was happening. But Haley isn't one to articulate at this stage. Synthetic Gerbil also continues with a comment about 405. If I'm a little honest, I feel a little critical of whoever decided on the graphics for Pilgrim. They are anachronistic for the time. It's not that 3D games didn't exist or that Pilgrim couldn't have been made at that time. It's just for the graphics it has, they're too good for 1994. There are too many polygons on screen that 1994 PCs wouldn't have been able to handle. The resolution is a little bit too high and the camera moves too freely. They at least made the frame rate on it kind of slow. I mean, whoever made the Pilgrim footage did a good job if the game were coming out of 1998 or 1999. But this particular nitpick only sticks out to me because so much else has been accurate in terms of games to this point. Okay, really good to know. I have nothing I can add to that, but it's really helpful to know that. I do think the game looks beautiful, but it sounds like they needed it to be later 90s for this to really work. Synthetic Gerbil also has some feedback from 108. And I had split this comment. I had shared a piece of it already, so I'm picking up with the part that felt really relevant to this episode. And this is when Donna, so in 108, this is when Donna was thinking about leaving Gordon and she gets her mom to take the kids so she can tell Gordon that. But instead, she ends up going to Comdex and stays with Gordon. So this comment was a longer comment. And then it ended up going into some takes on this episode, and it went on to discuss season 3 as well. But then here we are, and it feels like it's becoming relevant again. So I'll work my way into how it becomes relevant. Synthetic Gerbil says, Donna isn't just money hungry only after this point, but I think it's what leads to that tense IPO voting scene, that desire to just have the money already, to stop struggling in one way or another, the way her parents are. And yet when she has all of that success in season 4, she's kind of bored and fills it with hostility instead. Then, of course, she develops a drinking problem, which reflects Gordon's emptiness at the beginning of season 1, which has a very similar scene of Gordon picking her up from jail instead, because she had picked him up in the beginning. I'm sorry, I'm really getting ahead of myself. Like maybe a lot of viewers, since I'm not a genius or much of a psychopath, I found myself identifying with Donna for most of the show. It breaks my heart when I see Carrie Bechet's reaction when Gordon reveals he cheated on her. Yet again, like most people, she loses me about halfway through season 3. And I try to understand why, because I don't like many things. It's not explained up front. You just have to place context clues together. I feel like a lot of what explains Donna and her mother's conversation from 108, and really like a bunch of conversations in season 1, is informed more by later events. Even in her absence from this show, I had to go off on this tangent a little bit. There's a little bit more about Donna in the next comment from 310, where Synthetic Gerbil says, I think she carries along a bitterness for everyone in the upcoming season and then drowns her actual pain with alcohol. Been hanging on to these forever. Since 108, I really liked. So first of all, Synthetic Gerbil, I would be curious now that we're so far into this deep dive. I wonder if some of the things that you said in your thoughts on 108, if you've been able to flesh them out more or understand them in a new way since previous you wrote them in 108. But I think, one of the things that we've reflected on a lot with Donna and her mom in those conversations is just the sort of the different backgrounds. Donna's mom, I think, I want to say that there are even more comments about Donna and her mom here that I probably should wait for. So I'm going to give more context on that after the next comment is shared from the next commenter. But I do think with this, there's so many things that contribute to Donna's escapist coping mechanism of drinking her sorrows away and her frustration and her emotions away in the beginning of season 4 here. It all, there's a lot of like sort of trauma that she goes through in season 3, some traumatic events, some really big relationship moments. There's, the divorce with Gordon, but the divorce with Gordon, I feel like was her marriage with Gordon ever exactly the right path for her? Depending on who you ask, it may or may not have been. So I do think, is this Donna that we're seeing right now, is this the correct Donna? Who was the correct Donna? When we met Donna at the beginning of the show, she was mostly identifying with being a wife and a mom, and she had a job, but she wasn't being listened to as much as she maybe would have liked. And she wasn't she was so smart, but who was really giving her credit for that? Nobody at that point. And then Hunt does, but he's honey trapping her. So it's like, it's now we've got this Donna who she's so defined by her workplace mentality. And if she's being ruthless in the workplace, that probably makes her feel that way in her the rest of her life. She's got in relationships with her kids, she is still fulfilling her duties as a mom, but then also we get these moments where like she's a little too drunk to hear Joni reveal something really important about herself. So it's like it's like these two ends of the spectrum for Donna, and where is the correct Donna, the money hungry VC version of Donna, who perhaps is a little bit more in line in some ways with, the type of money that her parents might have had and the type of way that her dad might have done business. But, is this like, which is the real Donna? Or is, like Gordon said, is it all sides of her that are just part of the same person? And she's just sort of like leveling up, like turning up the dial on certain things and turning down the dial on other things. I'd like to get the next comment because there's more to say about this. And I think it'll make more sense in the context of the next comment in addition to synthetic gerbils. So because I've been trying not to say certain things in my feedback on that, based on the fact that I know there's another comment coming up. So Fracken Toasterleva shares some thoughts from 108 as well. See, because all of this goes back to some conversations with Donna and her mom. I completely agree. Susan's attitude to Donna's marriage was never surprising to me. It was always clear that she thought Donna could do better than Gordon and that she married down. Her husband probably feels the same. There's definitely classism here because of Gordon's background, but they also seem to see Gordon as a loser, someone not driven or strong or down to earth enough to achieve success and wealth. Susan sees Gordon kind of like how Joe Sr. described Joe's mom, dreamer, not ambitious or capable enough to fight for success. She would prefer if Donna were to divorce Gordon and marry someone like Hunt. But Susan is also a woman of her time, so it probably does not occur to her that Donna might try to achieve success through her own career, regardless of who her partner is. That's a great observation that Donna also wants financial success and security, but unlike Susan, she later tries to achieve it on her own. So I think between those two comments, I think we're creating like really an interesting picture of Donna coming out of these conversations with her mom. And yeah, her mom definitely like did not approve of Gordon. I'm sure they were pushing Donna towards a different type of partner to marry, but Donna ends up, marrying Gordon. And I think that the classism component of this is really interesting. The idea that you should, if you can be wealthy and if you can make the money, do that. So I think her parents would be very, especially her mom, would in some ways really respect Donna in the VC world, even in her ruthless version. Although I don't know if Susan would connect to the fact that Donna is just doing it herself. Like it's not that she's marrying into money, it's that she's making her own money. So I do think there's an interesting like difference in the generations there between Donna and her mom. And then you get to an episode like this where Gordon is the one who sees Donna the clearest. You know, he's like, yeah, sure, you've got the VC you and the mom you and the mean you and the nice you, and they're all you. They're all parts of you, and you control those parts of you, and you dial them up or you dial them down, and they're all great, and I love them all. Um, and he's not even married to her anymore, and he's the one picking her up from jail. So I just or from the police station anyway. So I just she for as much as she's divorced from him and her parents might not have wanted that marriage for her, he's also the one that sees her clearly and is really going to be there for her in a hard moment. Where's everybody else right now? Okay, Frack and Toaster Lava continues with some thoughts about 306. Good point about Diane's lifestyle and the lifestyle Donna could have had or once had with her parents as opposed to the life with Gordon. I think Donna is also looking at Diane as a role model because she sees her as an example of how to be both a very successful businesswoman and a mother. And Donna is always struggling with the idea that she's mostly seen as a mom. I once said Diane had it all together, unlike the other characters, and you made a good point that she didn't always. So I have to add that Diane obviously had her struggles, but she is still very different from the rest of the main characters with their messiness and conflicting desires, emotions, and motivations, because she knows what she wants and she goes for it, and not in a bad or too aggressive way. We see that she's taking Valium and Dexedrine, so she's presumably struggling with things like anxiety and ADHD, but at least she's medicating and finding a way to deal with it. It's interesting to bring this comment back into this episode, I think, because like when we first look at Diane, so much of what we're celebrating about her, or what I've been celebrating about her, is Diane sort of having it together and really having a sense of like what matters in life. She has her priorities in check. She doesn't want the drama. She wants to cut out the noise and get to the important stuff. And she's been really good about doing that. Now, in this episode, like I said, I think it's interesting because she has Donna coming at her with like a personal attack. She has Boz. I mean, she hears about all the stuff Boz has been up to that was happening completely under her nose, and she can't address it. She's just like, nope. And she walks away, and she's going to clean up the mess. And I don't know if the people in her life want her to hash it out with her before cleaning up the mess. And I don't know if she did that in the past. So it's like kind of an interesting thing. Like she's so buttoned up that is it now, not serving her. But I also think when I look at somebody like Donna and the way that Donna approached her and sort of went below the belt at the end of her conversation with Diane, it feels like Donna instantly regretted that. Like, I don't think Diane coming in laying down the law is going to hurt her relationship with Donna long term. I think Donna's still going to respect her, even though it is a betrayal. But I don't think she's going to react to Diane the way she reacted to Cam. So there's something different about that relationship. It reminds me, well, okay. I'll keep moving. I think there's another comment about Diane coming up later. Frack and Toaster Lover shared some really interesting context from 405. A really meaningful detail in this episode is that the book Cameron is reading is Gerald's Game by Stephen King. It's interesting that Cam told Tom that she thought the sound was that of an old woman tied to her bed, since Gerald's Game is about a woman who finds herself literally tied, or rather handcuffed, to a bed and unable to free herself. It's also both a metaphor for and the plot consequence of her bad marriage. What was supposed to be a kinky sex game between her and her husband, Gerald, at his insistence, in a remote retreat in the middle of nowhere goes wrong. Gerald has a heart attack and dies, and she's stuck there, unable to free herself from the handcuffs, terrified she would die there if no one finds her. There are other things happening later, but it's mostly about her starting to realize that she had been acquiescing to her husband too much and repressing her own identity and wishes. Examining her relationships with men, she finally realizes it all goes back to her childhood and her relationship with her father. The novel was adapted into a film directed by Mike Flanagan, starring Carla Gugino and Bruce Greenwood. Something that's missing from the movie, however, are the multiple voices, personalities that she is hearing in her head as she lies there. In the film, there's just a more confident, braver version of her, also played by Gugino, urging her to free herself in both senses of the word. In the novel, she hears three voices: her plucky and confident college friend Ruth, a child version of herself, and good wife Burlingham, a version of herself who is a literal Puritan and embodies her guilt and desire to be a good girl and good wife. The Gerald's Game reference hints at how emotionally shackled Cameron felt during her marriage, at least those last few years, and that it was her own unresolved issues that were keeping her that way. The fact that she told him, "I'm sorry for all of it," to Tom, and his long stare and a brief "yeah" as a response, in spite of the fact that Tom was technically the one who left Cam, confirm what we have suspected. She never really loved Tom the way he loved her. Joe's shadow was always there over the relationship, and it must have been excruciating for Tom since he was aware of it. If you're right about Tom's feelings for his new wife, what a depressing thought he would now be in Cam's role in his new marriage. Thank you for sharing more context on Gerald's Game, because I remembered a little bit about it from the movie, not from the book, and I was able to share a little bit of it, but I think the detail that you've added in fleshing this out here really show us how pertinent this is to Cam's story. And the fact that Cam would be reading it right now is influencing probably how she's thinking about things too. So it hits on both of those levels. This is great detail. And if you like Mike Flanagan, there's going to be a Mike Flanagan film in the 31 Days of Horror movies or scary movies that are coming up that I'm about to reveal. My absolute favorite movie is going to be on the list. So, or a favorite horror movie, I should say. That seems more fair. All right. Also on the last episode, Frack and Toast Lover has one more comment that I wanted to share. Joe and Cam have their first real fight in their new relationship. And I feel that might actually be much healthier than keeping it all inside as they've previously done. Both of them have been known to break objects when they're upset, and they're continuing it here with Cameron accidentally breaking a glass out of guilt and Joe taking out his anger on the walk. I think we haven't seen him break objects in anger in a long time. It definitely did not happen in season 3. It was happening on a regular basis in season 1. The fact Cameron bought a new walk feels heartwarming. She's trying to fix things. It's Joe's walk and Joe's apartment. But I didn't notice before listening to the podcast that Joe had bought one too. It's not surprising he would want to replace his own walk that he has broken, but it could be a metaphor for both of them wanting to fix their relationship, but also for not communicating while they're doing it. So good. You guys are amazing. The comments. What do I do with myself? I just don't know. So many good points. Yeah, you're right. When I think back to season 1, they were breaking things a whole lot. Season 3, did they break things out of anger? Maybe not. I mean, Joe, you might say he broke Ryan, but it wasn't out of anger and it wasn't on purpose. And but yeah, I went back because I was really I was debating, did I definitely see a walk in the box on in Joe's office? I am pretty sure that that's what that was. I went back to the episode again and I looked at that scene where Gordon moves the box from the chair in front of, not Joe's chair, but there's a chair for people who sit across from Joe. Gordon picks a box up out of the chair and moves it, but he's moving it really quickly. So if you try to pause the frame anywhere, it's just kind of blurry, but I'm pretty sure it's a box that shows a picture of a walk on it. So yeah, I think as you were, keep paying attention to Frack and Toasted Love's thoughts here. Yeah, I think what a cool analysis of something that the actions that they keep taking and what's happening there. And I like this idea that if they both bought a walk, they're fixing it, but they're not talking with each other about it. So yep, that all tracks on what's happening. Frack and Toasted Love had a lot more good things to say about Joe and Cam, and I might bring them into maybe I'm going to see how things evolve with the upcoming episodes to see if there's a place to put those as well. And if not, definitely check out Frack and Toasted Love's comments from 405. Okay, more on Diane from Jennifer Roner. From the Annabeth Gish interview, I've been hanging on to this forever. Diane was such a cool character to get to know. She had it all, confidence, success, style, and yet she was never uninteresting or predictable. She had a head for business with a solid understanding of human nature and practicality in business. Like Annabeth mentioned, Diane understood how business relationships worked, both investing in them as well as being directly involved in them. I like that Annabeth, pointed out that when it came to Cameron and Donna, she understood Cam's vision, but ultimately had to side with Donna in the practical business decisions. And one of my favorite Diane moments was in season 4 when she finally had to put Donna in her place by taking her off the Rover project. That was epic. She kept her cool even when she'd been personally insulted by Donna, and also did what she needed to do, not only for the sake of the project, but also to let Donna know that she had to get it together. And great point that with Diane and Donna, they were at different points on their journey. Diane being the seasoned professional and Donna being much earlier in her development. I never thought about it the way that you discussed here, but so see your point about how Diane had to have gone through a lot of personal and professional growth to get to where she is now. You did get the feeling that Donna had the potential to have that kind of personal and professional growth too. You know I love a good Diane appreciation. And Jennifer, thank you for contributing that. Yeah, what a tough love moment from Diane taking Donna off of Rover and being like, I'm going to give it to Trip. I don't care how much you hate him. We're going to circle back to that later. We're going to drill down on it now. Anyway, so there's that whole piece, right? I think it's so good. Yeah, it's just tough love. And I also keep thinking of a word that I've thought of it a lot since that interview with Annabeth Gish, where she used the term guardrails. She thought of Diane as the guardrails for Donna. That's definitely what this scene feels like, in terms of no, maybe you shouldn't be managing partner if your emotions are influencing all your business decisions, because they're not influencing you in a good way. There's one clear answer to this. You know it, you've just admitted it, and you still don't want to do it. So she's setting up those guardrails for Donna here. Okay. And now some comments from Evan the Stray from this episode. Joe learns cheese egg. He accepts it. He adapts. Heck, he may have even developed a taste for it beyond the necessity of quelling hunger and cooking limitations in a small camper. In 303, Joe says to Cam outside of San Francisco City College, I might not ever be great at it, but I'm not unteachable. Even more so now, I believe that he was speaking of two things at once, and of really only one that mattered to him, a relationship with Cam. But wait, there's more. Just earlier in that scene, Cam wants to know why he's there. They haven't seen each other since her Judas kiss at West Group. She thinks he's there to be spiteful. Instead, he thanks her for everything. He says, how could I have risen from the ashes if you hadn't burned it all to the ground? In the final moments of 401, we learn of Cam burning something else to the ground, her marriage. From the light of that funeral pyre, Joe rises from years of darkness in the virtual catacombs of Calnecht, surrounded by the lifeless post-it note faces of 500 websites and quarters of servers. Recursiveness continued. One could say that Cam burned her college career to the ground to join Joe at Cardiff Electric, enabling him to rise from the ashes of his career at IBM to lead the giant project. Joe also burns down his Cardiff relationship by immolating the giant truck and rises ever so briefly from its ashes at West Group. Now we loop back to the Judas kiss from Cam above. Nice. I'm just going to leave that where it is. I think it's all just beautifully said. What a journey those two have been on in this relationship. Okay, now comment about Donna and Cecil. Donna and Cecil meet in the AGGEK boardroom while the office appears to be completely empty. I'm feeling concerned for Donna's safety when Cecil becomes angry and physically threatening, and I'm wishing she'd considered the topic she had in mind, along with the risk of that particular situation or venue. She's obviously shocked by his demeanor, but effectively disarms him quickly. This scene's feeling changes very quickly for me. While it's wrong that Cecil and Boz passed off Cam's work as Cecil's, the feeling of manipulation of Cecil by Donna, for example, Boz has already stepped away. Oh, is that what he did? Sure. I don't think you care about the money, but I do think you care about your friends. Feels kind of like a dark seduction to me. In a quasi-hypnotic tone of voice, Donna tells Cecil what to say and slides the phone over to him. And a feeling of something somewhat akin to coerced suicide seeps through that scene for me each time I watch it. Yeah, right. It's I mean, it's so interesting because as a viewer, she's got this really concerned look on her face, and you can fall for that. You can buy into it. Cecil definitely does. But then by the end of this episode, after you see everything with Diana, it's like, oh, she totally knows there's another option on the table that is not firing Cecil or making him walk away from this project. So, yeah, well said. Gordon confusing the meaning of El Gordo, the fat one, with El Guapo, the handsome one, is something I'm reading into a little more following the swing dancing versus roller derby mistake. It's a funny moment at face value, but I'm looking at it as an indication of cognitive decline. For starters, Gordon seems particularly good with trivia, which would likely extend to a few common phrases in a few foreign languages, especially Spanish when living in the Southwest. Secondly, El Guapo is the main villain in the 1986 comedy The Three Amigos, starring Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, and Martin Short, which was quite popular and felt inescapable for a few years following its release. I kind of expected him to have seen it, but perhaps not. Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that movie. I remember watching that. With Joe's remarks to Cam about how it's amazing that Haley has developed from a 4-year-old child building couch cushion forts, likely referencing the Hurricane Alicia cushion fort scene in episode 106, into a 14-year-old teenager making kids in the hall jokes, you can feel and hear Cam's discomfort with the possible implications of Joe's aspirations and feelings. Yeah, they're both dropping these hints to each other. They can pick up on them and they just let them hang. They're like, yeah, I'm going to go over here. They say them and they don't address them, because the moment they actually get into a head-on conversation about this, I think it's going to be a problem. You know, like they just don't want to have that conversation. Cameron's fan site seems to really surprise Cam and buoy her spirits. I get the impression it's bringing much needed confidence and reinvigorating her to be creative. Yeah, I think so too. Donna's eye makeup at 1723 feels particularly noteworthy. I don't feel like we get many opportunities of a similar angle framing and lighting of Donna like we're seeing here. Yeah, that was the nice eye makeup. I wasn't sure if you meant the like mascara streaming down her face, or like she went to sleep in her makeup when she had a night with Bobby Aaron. But that wasn't the scene you were talking about. I went back and that was the scene with a really nice face of makeup there. Donna and Diane's confrontation reveals a childlike layer of Donna's personality. No, I can't. Cam saying she couldn't work with Donna on the internet project in 310 really wounded Donna. Yeah, so true. There's some tantrums here in this episode for sure. I'm wondering whether Alexa Vaughn's free reign development proposal to Cam gives her just enough rope to hang herself from Alexa's perspective. No strings attached into perpetuity doesn't seem plausible. I mean, I think this is the sort of thing where you then have to flesh out what you're actually working on. But it's a good first conversation to have. And remember, Alexa contacted Cam 7 times by email over a period of at least 4 months before Cam even responded to her to have this conversation. So maybe like things have also changed since then. I think Alexa's just trying to gauge how serious Cam is here too. Alexa says to Cam, you can't get anything if you don't know how to ask, after disclosing to her that she obtained a copy of Pilgrim from Atari. This likely throws up a red flag for Cam, since Joe's dad said to her, you say something with the right authority, you generally get what you want, after gaining access to Joe's apartment in 105. Yeah, could be. That's an interesting thing to call back to here. I like that. Gordon is both figuratively and literally making a mess of things with Haley. Joe and Haley's milkshake splatter. Please change the water in the bucket, Gordon. Yeah, it's true. Threatening to take away Haley's role at Comet, her creative outlet and sense of belonging, was a breaking point for Haley. Following Joe's deep appreciation and fascination with Haley's growth from age 4 to 14, Gordon's words to Joe of him not caring about Haley and never being a parent are particularly hurtful. Joe is approaching Haley's struggles with such warm empathy, and Gordon isn't seeing anything other than the mechanical dynamics of the situation. Gordon is a hardware guy who's recently been quite good with software approach. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much that Gordon's missing in that scene. There's so much that Joe can't say. And I do think, like, for Haley, it would be devastating not to have this community. It's like there's punishing Haley. Punishment, like punishment, if it's being designed to get them to learn a lesson, is great. But in this case, it's actually taking away the only healthy outlet that Haley has. And I don't know. I think that turns a corner into something else, but Gordon doesn't actually know that. He wants her to be okay at school, but it's not reality. Okay. Earlier in the episode, we're given an opportunity to see what I believe is a heartfelt and rare conversation with Donna and Joni, where they're able to connect on a deeper level. Donna is proud of Joni for her fearlessness, and Joni is generally receptive. Now, following Donna's confrontation with Diane, she returns home early and the girls find her playing Pilgrim, Cam's game, not dress up. She and Joni speak briefly, with Donna repeating her complimentary remarks she made to Joni earlier, and Joni sees that she's drinking again, just like the time before. Unfortunately, this likely degrades the prior conversation, and Joni is obviously bothered. Generally speaking, Donna's drinking is becoming a real problem, as it's impacting more than just her. Boz, Diane, Joni, Gordon, Bobby, Aaron, and Agek, the one-nighter. Yeah, I do wonder if Donna having the same conversation with Joni drunk makes Joni think any differently about the first conversation they had. That was exactly this conversation. Like, I wonder if it actually like takes the sheen off of that conversation with her. I don't know. If I were Joni's friend, I would tell her to hold a space to keep that conversation the way it was. Preserve that, and you get to have that nice memory and that nice encouragement from your mom. But then, like, also her mom's got a problem, and Joni's clocking that, and like she can't take this conversation at face value for what it is. Even though Donna's still saying something very encouraging, it's more a sad thing. I hope that Joni can keep those things separate for herself, but I think she seems to see that her mom has a problem. When Joe considers the post-it note from Cam that says she needs to think, I believe he feels concerned that she's losing interest in their relationship. When Boz calls, Joe likely thinks back to the morning in the camper with Cam saying they need to get with Boz. I think Joe decides he can both check in on Boz and win some points with both Boz and Cam. After all, Boz's opinion does have an ability to sway Cam to some degree. This seems both genuine and a bit manipulative. Personal politics. Oh, interesting. I didn't go that far with it for sure. But yeah. And also to the point of like needing to think being an unnerving way to start something for Joe. I think the same thing about the conversation Cam started with Joe in the car. Pull over now. Like, what a sort of alarming way to start a conversation. I think it makes you think, like, are you about to break up with me? And somebody with more insecurity would probably do more overt things about that might actually damage the relationship. Joe seems to be like holding space for it, which it can't be easy. But he goes to Boz, right? So yeah, it could be all the things that you just said. Inebriated Donna singing Pat Benatar's We Belong, an excellent song, while driving her car, reminds me of a sober Gordon doing the same thing in 102 to the Boz Skaggs song Lido Shuffle. Gordon gets a little reckless or squirrely with his driving at that moment, but Donna is the one who gets taken to the police station this time. Let's put this behavior in further context. An updated NBC News story from March 2014 featured a study by DME Automotive found that 56% of drivers admit to singing behind the wheel. Women are more likely than men to sing, 65% versus 49%, and drivers under 35 years are more likely, 61%. Very interesting stats. I count myself in those stats. We have seen more than one person saying behind the wheel. Donna saying here, we saw Gordon saying Lido Shuffle. We saw Boz saying Rock Island Line. as he was going to sleep with his wife slash ex-wife after getting out of prison. So those are at least a few, but I feel like there's a fourth that I'm forgetting here in this context. And I'm trying to remember what's coming up for me, but it's not coming to mind right away. So there might be a fourth somewhere, but we definitely see this a few different times with different characters. Outside of the police station, when Gordon is picking up Donna, we see more of the complementary light color skewering towards orange and blue, like we saw earlier in Donna's house when she was speaking with Joni the first time. I'm wondering whether this is a filter being used since it's popping up thematically in Donna's environments, for example, her house in the last episode. Gordon has a lovely, reassuring conversation with Donna about her being neither as hard nor as soft as she thinks she is, and that he loves that person. And I think that's beautiful. I know. And good point about the lighting. I didn't spot that, so maybe we can start looking for that. Gordon orders food from Haley's favorite dive and sees her Saturn V rocket bird drawing inspiration tattoos on Vanessa. He's likely finally understanding the context of Joe's comments to him earlier and some of Haley's difficulties at school, feeling like a stranger recently. I know this is really important information for Gordon. Cam's camper now has internet and she looks like she just got a surge of dopamine. This development is not looking like it's going to increase Cam's time at Joe's by any means whatsoever. Yeah. Cam finding herself and finding more of a self-sustaining space in her airstream probably does, it's less need to go to Joe's apartment. So there's that. Quote rockets, Rocket 5 from Cam, because it sounds like the flu or the clap. Yep. Definitely a memorable line from this episode. Rocket 4 from Gordon. Calm down, bug. Gordon, calm down. Oh, Gordon, surely you've learned this lesson. LOL, shaking my head. Rocket 3 from Haley. Yeah, we used to go all the time until my mom blew her hand off. It's just, we didn't even see it coming. Yeah, we had one in common. So good. Rocket 2 from Joe. The things that I've done, I don't even know why I did them. I just wanted everything and I didn't care what or who I had to go through to get it. And rocket number 1 from Donna. Get yourself together, Donna. Or no, rocket number 1 from Diane. Get yourself together, Donna. I'm tired of holding your hand. Yeah. And also that line, I think, if I'm right, when Donna and Diane are talking about Trip in a previous episode, and Diane's like, stop making fun of Trip. I don't want to make fun of Trip anymore. And Donna's like, okay, like I just want, like, I wanted somebody to relate to the fact that it's hard being a woman here. And Diane says something like, yeah, I got myself to being a partner in this firm and nobody was holding my hand. I think she actually used that expression. So she brings it back up again here and she's like, I've been holding your hand, Donna. I'm done. Stop it. And she's pretty, let's face it, what a calm conversation Diane had with Donna in this episode, considering how absolutely pissed she probably was that Donna knew all this stuff about Boz and didn't tell her. Everybody kept it from her. Anyway, that's this episode. Okay. So here we are. It's 4:06. We did it. Can't wait to hear your feedback about it. We are just charging into the end of this series. Next one's going to be 4:07. I can't wait to get into that one. And, go out there. Please, everybody go out there and watch Halt and Catch Fire. Bye, everyone.